And I was like, what in the world was that? And then just while I was completely amazed, it came back. There were advanced beings on this earth in ancient times, and they used to have what she said, megalithic cities on tops of mountains. You need to go to Machu Picchu. And so these people came from a different star system to this planet, and they are people, flesh and blood people, and we look a lot like them.
And chisel out a story that I'm just making up.
Right.
Like there's something there.
Two civilizations running concurrently, being labored by these one being called Ijiji. They were the working class of the Anunnaki or the Anuna. Because when you come down to the real truth that will really upturn or overturn a lot of the mainstream theories that have been pushed and like dogma and propaganda, and if people grasp that truth and understand it, it will overturn industries.
I'd like to welcome back to the show returning champion, Billy Carson. How you doing, Billy?
Fantastic, man. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, man, so much for coming all out to Next Level Soul Studios, flying in for us. I appreciate it, man. Every time you and I get together, the internet seems to like it.
Oh, man, we break the internet, man. We break the internet, and it's going to break again right now.
I'm telling you. I mean, there hasn't been one. We've done 3.
Yeah.
This is the 4th one. And there hasn't been one that hasn't broken at least 1 million.
Wow.
At least.
Amazing.
Which is insane.
Yeah. Good numbers.
Not bad numbers, brother. Not bad numbers. So I'm so happy to have you here, man. So, we've talked about a lot of stuff, but I really never delved into the main one question I've always wanted to ask you is like, you do so much, man. You do so much research. You're so curious about stuff. What started you on this insane path? Because
psychopathic
sociopathic path that you are on now. It's not something you wake up and just go, you know what, I'm gonna just go down every rabbit hole, because you go after all of them. It's not like you're just like, oh, the moon is this or the earth is flat. I know you don't think that, but like things like you go after all of it. So what sparked that, man?
I'll tell you, it's a culmination of a few things. The first, one of the biggest things though, was leaving New York and moving down to Miami, being in a very impoverished neighborhood. I'm talking about extremely bad.
Opelika.
Oh,
I know.
Opelika. You're from, you already know, the 305.
I know Opelika very well.
Yeah, and so I was like to the Opelika airport, well, kind of, because the airport, the planes would fly right over our backyard as they took off from Opelika airport.
Because they don't care.
Yeah, of course. Right?
Yeah, they shot Bad Boys there.
Oh, man. Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's right. Bad Boys 2, I think it was, whatever. But yeah, so now it's a very nice, they remodeled it and everything. But anyway, I'm looking up in the sky and I see these airplanes going over. Now, even as a 7-year-old kid, I know that these planes are moving fast. But from my perspective, they looked like they were moving slow. And it really had me like freaked out. Like, how are they moving so slow? And I know they have to go fast. And so I'm looking up one day, because, this is the 70s. There's no TV, cable. We had 3 channels on this, no Cartoon Network.
You don't have to tell me that.
You know what I'm saying? I'm aging myself now. But I'm looking up and I see this object go over and it clears the horizon in seconds.
Wow.
And this object was a little bit more elongated than an egg, but not quite to be like almost like a cigar, kind of in the middle. And it was glowing metal. And it was shining and it just spurted across the sky like, and I was like, what in the world was that? And then just while I was completely amazed, it came back just as fast and it stopped this time. But this time it was much lower. Maybe now I can estimate about 250 meters above my head. And it was just completely silent. No humming, no buzzing, no nothing. Just glowing metal, kind of like this illuminating like glow that was kind of like getting brighter and getting a little bit dimmer and brighter and dimmer. Like it was kind of emanating this glow, whatever this glow was. And then it just, it was gone in the opposite direction. And I ran in the house and I was screaming, oh my God, I can't believe what I just saw, Mom. And I'm telling my mother, I just saw something crazy. I don't know what it was, but it cleared the sky, it went so fast, and I was talking so fast that I was all panicked and everything. And she said, son, let me tell you something. She just calmed me right down. This is the 70s. There were advanced beings on this earth in ancient times, and they used to have what she said, megalithic cities on tops of mountains. You need to go to Machu Picchu. which is why I dedicated my first book to my mother.
Your mom said this?
My mom said
in
that.
the 70s?
In the 70s.
What? That's
Yeah.
insane.
She didn't say aliens. She said advanced beings, which is why I use that term till this very day, advanced beings. I say that the majority of the time. I got it from my mom. And so she told me, Machu Picchu is the place you need to go visit, when you grow up. And that was one of the places I went to. And that's why there's a picture of that in one of my books. And I dedicated that whole book to my mom because I finally made it out there to see these cities on tops of mountains that she told me about way back in the 70s. But that sparked my interest. So I went to my school, Rainbow Park Elementary. It was only 5 houses away from my house. And I went to the teacher. I said, I need to go to the library and get the encyclopedias. That was our old-fashioned Google back then. So I had to go get the Britannicas out. And,
Britannica, I had New World, baby.
Oh, man. You
Britannica was a higher hit.
You're starting now. I go get them, and I'm looking for aerospace. And I get all the aerospace tech books out, and I'm looking for what I saw in the sky. No, I couldn't find it. I'm looking at swept wing, delta wing. I'm looking at ballistic, intercontinental ballistic. I'm looking at supersonic. I'm looking at hypersonic. Everything I saw, I saw this SR-71 Blackbird, which was blowing my brain out back then. The fact that it was built in the 1960s, a plane that can fly 4 times the speed of sound, that can outrun missiles and everything else. So I became kind of a quasi-aerospace historian just getting into that tech. That led me down the tech rabbit hole. And then from that rabbit hole, looking at these advanced technologies, it led me into, eventually led me into black budget tech and trying to find out what's going on with these declassified projects. And if they had these now declassified, how old were they really when they made them? How many decades ago did this stuff start? And going down this rabbit hole just led me from thing to thing to thing, dealing with technologies and aerospace technologies and space technology in particular. And so that in combination with the fact that, my mom was, they had me doing book reports all the time. My mom, my dad, book reports. They knew that I was studious and I can read really good. And so from elementary school, before we even moved to Miami, they had me doing these book reports. When we got to Miami and the school was giving us more books, it was crazy. I was like, come on, guys. And they had me doing all these reports and all these books. And about maybe 3 weeks after this whole thing happened, or a week to 3 weeks, I can't remember the exact time period, but this encyclopedia salesman came to the house. Yeah. And dropped off a set and told my mom, you got to pay X amount of dollars a month or whatever. But the guy came back one time and never came back again. It was the biggest blessing I ever had. I was into economics, biology, physics, science, chemistry, economics. I mean, you name it, right? Ecology and so these books, and I was studying these books because I was doing research on them and doing book reports on them. This is where my basis for research kind of really began and reading comprehension began. And between, seeing that, now I call it a UFO back then, and digging into the aerospace, and then much later getting into a situation where I was wanting to go after these ancient sites and go visit them, but not knowing the deeper level that they were tied to potentially these advanced civilizations. I didn't know that yet until I had an experience that happened to me around 2010. And that just drove me even deeper because I had this revelation to look up Worldwide Telescope, which is at the time was a technology site that had all the probe data, space probe data from all the missions into space. So this culmination of researching aerospace technology, having this strange, otherworldly experience, and then going online and finding this space probe data and beginning to see anomalies that were, to me, connecting ancient sites on Mars to ancient sites on Earth, it just led me down this immense rabbit hole. And I said, everything is open game now. I need to know everything.
So what was the event that happened in 2010? Seems pretty intense.
It was a big intense. So in 2010, I was working on this project called Fort Terra Nova. And it's got an Instagram account, Fort Terra Nova. It means it's a Fort New Earth. And I was building an underground base, which I ended up completing in 2013. It was on the History Channel on an episode called Countdown to Apocalypse, the Nostradamus version. And it was they were featuring my underground shelter company that I had started. And I built one underground the size of 3 Walmarts.
So a bunker.
A bunker. Yes.
That's intense. 3 Walmarts. Is it super Walmarts or just regular Walmarts?
Regular Walmarts.
Okay.
About
one super Walmart.
One super Walmart. And they didn't have them super Walmarts back then. Really.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's got everything. For 360 people to live underground for up to a year, completely off the grid.
Wow.
You're talking about tilapia pool, hydroponics.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it runs on turbine diesel engines. But
Back then,
yeah, back then that's what we still have. I'm looking to change it out. But food for a year. Front load tractors and seeds, so we can plant seeds above the land and everything's clear to come out. So this drew a lot of attention, and I don't know if that's what drew these beings' attentions, but after one hard, long day of work with that project, I came home to watch a little sports update on ESPN around 9 p.m. I was wide awake, and the whole room just turned lavender, and the TV went boom, and it shut down. And I thought that my boys were playing a trick on me because the split floor plan had boys on one side, girls on the other, and my wife at the time was even in the room behind the family room in the master bedroom on the first floor, my ex-wife. And so, yeah, this has happened. And I looked over my left shoulder. There was nobody there. And when I turned around, what I could only describe to you as two gray alien beings were in my face. Now, people talk about these things. They have them on TV all the time, and they have this depiction of them. They're almost like what you see in the movies. Almost. Not quite, but almost. At least these two. They were only inches from my face. I did a little regression work with with like a psychiatrist to get I was having so much anxiety talking about this. It was getting me so emotional. I've even been on a few emotional podcasts talking about it, but I really had to go face it. I finally faced the trauma that it gave me head on.
Yeah.
And I feel so much better, but for years it really traumatized me. Just up until maybe not even just a few months ago, I'm finally working my way through that trauma. Because what they did to me, they didn't take me anywhere. They didn't abduct me. They didn't speak to me in words that I could understand. But whatever they were doing, it was making my brain shake in the skull. It was like having somebody take your head and just shake it like this for like 30, 40 seconds as hard as they possibly could. And I was screaming, but no sound was coming out. Nobody could hear what I was saying. And just as quick as it started, it stopped. And they just turned and kind of dangled away. They bounced away. They don't have a normal walking gait like us. I mean, at least from what my perspective was, it looked like they were almost bouncing, and they went right through the wall. And then the lights came back, normal. The TV came back on, and I ran around the house, and it scared everybody in my family. Till this day, I'm still kind of, estranged from one of my sons, Giovanni. He still, he told me, like, I'm just afraid to be around you. I'm afraid to come to your house because of what happened,
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get that. That. Was it maybe a frequency thing? Like their frequency was at such a high level that you would just your nervous system could barely handle what was going on. I know that Bashar, Daryl told me that once. Daryl Anka told me once that if Bashar showed up, we would just couldn't even be in the room with him. Wow. We couldn't be more than 10 or 15 feet away from him because his frequency is at such a high level that we just can't handle it. And about channels.
Oh, yeah.
So they take a minute to kind of ramp up their nervous system and their bodies to deal with that frequency. So is that, you think?
It's quite possible.
That kind of just like, because what you sounds like is like, your nervous system's going crazy, your brain's like you couldn't handle.
It was overload.
The frequency, exactly. It's too much stuff coming at you.
It was just too much. It was complete overload. The fear factor, first of all, from turning.
Yeah, did you like lose your mind?
I went. Listen, it was scary. It was really scary.
Terrifying.
I made no money from this. I got nothing but angst from it. I was already on shaky terms with my wife already. It was like the level like we got to divorce. It scared my kids still to this day. It just really nothing good really came out of the situation. And so, but it happened. And I finally came to the realization years later when I finally wanted to talk about it, because so many people were coming to me with their situations and things that they were experiencing, and I was hiding mine. And I felt like I'm probably one of the very few people that would listen to them. But if I start talking about what happened to me, maybe more people will come out. Maybe more people will listen to other people when they say something, they had an experience of some type. And so that's why I decided to do it. And for all the ones who have come forward, there's over 7 million people that have had experiences. They're all heroes. They're all courageous people. But that experience led me, that same night is when my brain kept picking up this phrase, worldwide telescope, worldwide telescope, worldwide telescope, over and over again, worldwide telescope. So I went to the computer and I typed in worldwide telescope on excite.com at that time. That was a
Not Lycos?
No, Lycos, Excite.
Jeeves? Ask Jeeves?
Man, ask Jeeves. Oh wow,
we are dating ourselves,
We're
sir.
dating ourselves.
CompuServe? Okay, let's not go. All right, let's not go down that road. Okay, go ahead, sir.
So, the old school search engines, right?
Yeah.
But the first one that popped up was worldwidetelescope.org. And the software was there. Now you can run it right from the computer because HTML5 will allow you to run it from the server,
Sure.
but you can still download if you want. And you install the software and it takes you into space probe data. I went to Mars. I said, I'm on Panorama. So I'll click on that. Opportunity rover. Okay, click on Opportunity rover. Now I'm in the rover. I can zoom in, zoom out, pan left and right from the perspective of the mast cam on the rover on Mars.
How is that? Really?
Yeah. It's stitched together images. They call them gigapans. After the rover collects all the data, it's stitched and
okay.
it's in
it's
a
not
server.
live. It's not a live
It's
connection.
not live.
Yeah,
No, it's not a live connection.
Yeah.
It gives you the perspective though from the time that it was.
He shot it. Or it shot
and
it.
it gives you the ability to make all these moves within the imagery, as if you're there.
Okay.
It's phenomenal technology. Sure. And I started seeing anomalies right away. Things that look like stones that you would see in Peru, right? How the stones almost look molded together. Broken pieces of what looked like to be buildings. I can't say they were buildings, but it looked like statues that looked almost Egyptian-esque. And I said, what the hell is going on? And when I found the first Ankh up there and laying in the sand, I said, this is crazy. Went back to figuring out, okay, I got to research this. And I came across the text called the Enuma Elish and the 7 Tablets of Creation, and also the Epic of Atrahasis. And the reason why they're important, they're ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets that have been deciphered for over 200 years. And in these epics, there are beings named the Igigi that were actually working and laboring on Mars. But they were
did they say Mars?
Oh, yeah, Lamu.
Which was another word for Mars.
And so, according to the Sumerians, that's the same planet for Mars, the god of war. And then they were also working here on Earth. So they were in both places. So 2 civilizations running concurrently, being labored by these one being called Igigi. They were the working class of the Anunnaki or the Anuna. So just like if I own a construction company, I'm the executive. I'm not going to get out there and work. Then I have a master architect, and then I have a foreman. And underneath the foreman, we got the laborers. They're not slaves, but they are working. So that's how they had this whole thing set up. And it was even laying out the type of work they were doing, digging canals, building cities, creating irrigation, clearing out the Euphrates and Tigris River to create the irrigation system so civilization can prosper. All this is in the text. It's incredible.
Really?
Yeah. And when I read this stuff, I was like, what the? It just blew me away. And I said, I got to know more. And I started digging deeper into all these ancient texts, tablets. One tablet led me to one thing, another thing. The next thing you know, over 20 years later, I've gone through over 1,000 texts, tablets, scriptures, papyruses, cylinder scrolls, ancient verbal handed down star lore, and visited with sages and wisdom keepers all around the world to continue to gain as much knowledge as I possibly could on these topics.
So let's dive in a little bit to the Anunnaki because the 7 tablet of creation is very interesting because I know about the Anunnakis, the stories that are in these Sumerian tablets, and that's becoming more and more known now. It's a lot of people are talking about it. Yeah. You're definitely helping. I'm helping get the word out on these kind of things. But I know when you were on Joe's show, I mean, you guys talked about that stuff, and like a lot of people are understanding and are hearing these stories. But what I always say to people is like, well, do you think that's real? I'm like, well, it's not as easy. It's not like Stephen King could just sit down and write a book. It's real easy for him to write a book right now. Yeah. You hit on a computer, you write it on a piece of paper. But to put clay tablets, I'm gonna sit down today and chisel out a story that I'm just making up. Right. Like there's something there. And that's throughout history, by the way. Like stone, clay tablets. So I always say, like, what are they lying? So can you explain to people really quickly, because I know a lot of people listening probably already know who an Anunnaki is. But can you kind of talk a little bit about Anunnaki and a little bit more deeper on what these other guys are doing, because I haven't really heard a whole lot about them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, the Anunnaki, also known as the Anuna, are these ancient gods. They are the original pantheon that came down to earth from the heavens, according to the ancient Sumerians, long before the Greek pantheon was even adopted. The Greek pantheon are the same beings, just with different names. And so these beings came down to earth, and in pre-dynastic Egypt, ancient Kemet, they called them the Neteru, Neteru, and they were known as the gods that came from heaven to earth at the time of Zep Tepi to turn mud into a kingdom. And so they're known all around the planet. In the biblical text, they're called the Anunnaki. And it says, we were grasshoppers in their eyesight. No matter where you go around the world, you find an account of these beings, these mighty beings. They call them savants of old and heroes of old. And so these people came from a different star system to this planet, and they are people, flesh and blood people, and we look a lot like them. But there are distinguishing factors, because when you read the text in the biblical text, when they're identifying these people, when you read in the ancient Sumerian tablets and other texts from around the world, they can distinguish, oh, this person is an angel or a fallen one or whatever you want to call them. So there's some distinguishing features that let people know that they're not exactly Homo sapien, but they, in some way, shape, or form, about 200,000 years ago, they decided to genetically tinker with human beings and get them to do the work of the Ijiji. So these Ijiji beings, these were worker people. They were volunteers. They weren't supposed to be enslaved. But they arrived here about 450,000 years ago. They worked for about 250,000 years. Yes, laboring, building a breakaway civilization on Earth and Mars, which is why there's so many anomalies on Mars. And then what happened was they decided to go to war against God, Anu, the head of the gods, Anu, Enki, and Enlil. So they fell from heaven to earth. They left Mars, came down to earth in the Epic of Atrahasis. They went to South Africa to a place called Adam's Calendar, and they encircled the camp of Enki, Anu, and Enlil. And I read this tablet online one day. This is like, there's a rabble at my door. There's a rabble at my door. What does this mean? And these were the Ijiji coming, banging on the door, getting ready to go to war. And so Anu gets his security team, and they come outside, and they're trying to talk and hash it out. And then Enki comes up with an idea, and he says, there is an existing being on this planet. We can add our essence to it and get it to bear your load. In other words, we can create a worker slave, a worker race. So an agreement was made, and the Ijiji said, by the way, we need some women. And so they took some women with them. These are the sons of God that made it with the daughters of men. They took this in Genesis. They took the women with them because they claimed that they weren't getting any women. They needed that too. So they took some women, human women, by the way. These created the Nephilim race,
right?
By mating together. All this is in the ancient tablets.
And the Nephilim, that's in the Book of Enoch, right? Or am I wrong?
The Nephilim, well, they're throughout the Old Testament, but they are definitely in the Genesis.
Okay.
God tries to wipe them out, but that's actually Enlil. Yahweh wants to wipe them out, but that's Enlil. Some of the Nephilim survive in the Bible. Same story in the Sumerian tablets. Same story. Thousands of years prior. And so, these Ijiji, they just wanted a break. So what's the best way to create a slave that doesn't know it's a slave? You become its god, and they are honoring the gods by doing this labor. It's a labor of love at that point. So that's how they manipulated mankind. They took our cousins that were already here. They tinkered with our genetics. They disconnected some of our DNA nodes. They shrunk our pineal gland. And they installed something called a worship gene, which scientists and geneticists have just discovered, the worship gene inside of us. When it's on, you want to worship something on the outside. When it's turned off, you go within. And so they put that all together in this nice genetic soup, and they got us out here laboring and slaving, and we're still doing it until this very day.
So it sounds like it was they unionized, and
facts.
They unionized, and they're like, look, our working conditions for the last 250,000 years, not so good.
Yeah,
we want some women, and let's let's build these other people to do it.
Right.
Kind of like what we're trying to do now with AI.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Facts.
We're giving our essence to an artificial to do a lot of the workload.
There's no difference. We are duplicating what's already been done in the form of AI and learning machines.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So this is my question. A lot of people listening to this stuff will always ask, well, I mean, if there were all of these people, all these beings, all these civilizations, why don't we have more artifacts? Why don't we have more proof other than apparently some dude just sat down and just, on a tablet, wrote down on a tablet this story? Why isn't there more proof out there?
Yeah, we have a lot of proof.
Okay.
And there's a lot of hidden proof and suppressed proof too. But the proof that we can get access to, just travel to the 33rd degree parallel of the Earth, and you'll find megalithic city after megalithic city as you go around the globe on planet Earth. At certain points on that 33rd degree parallel, for whatever reason they chose that parallel, I think it's because of the magnetic field from the Earth there, they've harnessed the power of that, and they've built megalithic cities all around that 33rd degree parallel. I mean, you can get to Teotihuacan, right? And you can go over to the Bosnian Pyramid, the pyramids at Giza, Japan, China. I mean, you can just keep going. On that parallel, you're going to find, Baalbek. They're all on that path. And these sites, when you go to them and you go visit them in person like I have, you begin to realize how magnificent the architecture is and how incredible the technology must have been to move these things. They have these stones that some of them are 15, 20 tons. Some of these stones, we don't even have machines today that can move one of these stones. And yet these people, these primitive people with copper chisels and chicken bones somehow removed them from
chicken bones. I like to throw that chicken bone in there.
That's what they say. They harvested them from the quarry.
Yeah, with chicken bones.
And with chicken bones, and then took them hundreds of miles in some cases, and then hoisted them up and built a magnificent structure with no blueprints.
And that's a slapped up.
Yeah.
Like the mathematics is so perfect on some of these.
The alignments and everything else.
I mean, I was in Chichen Itza, and I was there, and I was looking at it, and it's just such an awe-inspiring technology. Like I'm like, how the hell? With the equinox and the snake coming out, and hearing the bird sound when the clap. I'm like, come on. Like how? I mean, do you know what type of technology? Like what?
You have to have foreknowledge. Yeah. So in order to build these structures, which are the evidence laying right before our eyes all over planet Earth, the evidence is underneath our feet. We just have chosen to ignore it because mainstream won't acknowledge it. But for example, Chichen Itza, right, down in the Yucatan Peninsula, you have to have foreknowledge of everything you want to be able to accomplish astrologically and physically, cymatically, before you lay the first stone.
Right, because you're not gonna about halfway through go, no, just can we move everything over just 5 feet?
Right,
you can't do that.
It's got to be so precise. You have to understand the Earth, the tilt of the Earth that it has. It's our tilt. You have to understand the Earth's wobble. You have to understand precession of the equinox, and over a 27,000 year period. You have to understand cymatics and frequencies and vibrations. You have to understand calculus and mathematics in a way that people are just learning today. You also have to understand that you need some type of technology above the Earth to scan, because you need to have a polar orbiting satellite that's going to scan the Earth for data to give you the precise location for you to put this thing.
That's just one.
That's just one, and it's like the odds that it was a mistake and just coincidence don't even exist.
Come on. Yeah.
So when you say evidence, just go to the Pyramid of Kukulkan in Chichen Itza in the Yucatan Peninsula. Just that one structure alone is all the evidence you need.
But that evidence has been, according to the mainstream, they say that was built at 1200 AD or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is way older than what they say.
I mean, look at the pyramids.
Look at the pyramids.
The pyramids
look at the
are
Sphinx.
not, or the Sphinx. Nobody knows.
Yeah,
they still figure it out.
I can take you to the Sphinx enclosure. Every year I take people to it. I'm going in a few more weeks to Egypt to take a couple hundred people on a private tour. We go into the Sphinx enclosure. I go to the wall where you see the weathering pattern, and the weathering pattern tells you the whole story.
Sure.
Okay. Dr. Robert Schoch, a professor, he estimates based on him being a professor in geology, at least 13,000 years. I give it even longer than that. I give it another precessional period beyond that, taking it back to about 36,000 years ago, around the same time the Emerald Tablets were written. And you can see the water flow, and you can tell how many years it took the water to flow. And why the water flowed? Because of the Younger Dryas incident that created this huge impact right above Syria, which created this flood that ran through the area and filled up the entire plateau of Giza with water. And that enclosure was underwater for quite some time. There's a lot of water and erosion that's evidenced right there on the spot. And you can calculate, it's like a clock. Erosion is like a ticking time clock, and you can actually calculate how old this thing is. I'm giving it about 36,000 years. He doesn't want to go that far back because I don't think he wants to offend his peers too much.
He's already offended them enough.
Yeah, he has. But I'm telling you, it's further back than that.
Why does mainstream archaeology and just mainstream in everything you do, from medicine to physics to everything, when there's something new that changes the status quo, everyone fights against it, as opposed to
Yeah.
Oh, let's investigate.
Right.
Let's look at the evidence. Let's see what happens. Why do you think? I mean, the proof it's getting the noise is getting now so loud.
I know.
From people. I mean, because of what Graham Hancock did and Robert Shaw and people like you and everyone out there really just beating the drum to the point where you just ask a normal person off the street and go, "Does this make sense?" And they'll go, "Man, that seems," without conspiracy theories. We're not even talking about that.
Just logic, just basic logic.
Look, Robert, our friend Robert Grant came on. Yeah. I mean, he could talk.
Oh man.
I mean, he could go into detailed math. And throw out numbers, and you're just like, this is impossible.
It's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. It's not possible. It didn't happen 1,500 years ago with a chicken bone. Like it seems so much. But why do you think that mainstream has such a problem with it?
Because when you come down to the real truth, that will really upturn or overturn a lot of the mainstream theories that have been pushed and like dogma and propaganda. And if people grasp that truth and understand it, it will overturn industries. Okay? So the archaeological industry is heavily tied into, believe it or not, the religious industry.
It's shocking.
Yeah. So a lot of the funding, the grant money is coming from from the Catholic Church.
It's the Vatican. It's just, let's say it's the Vatican.
It's the Vatican.
It's the Vatican. Oh yeah, no, there's no other rich churches out there. The Mormons aren't sending money.
No,
like
it's the Vatican.
It's the Vatican.
It's the Vatican. They're funding a lot of these archaeological projects, but as long as they get access to the data, and of course they get they get it to say what they want it to say. They get
to support their narrative.
To support their narrative, correct? To support their narrative, and so that's the problem. And so you can disrupt once religion is disrupted. We're talking about trillions of dollars per year going bye-bye. Trillions of dollars, not billions. The religious system makes more money than all the Silicon Valley companies combined a year. That's a lot of money.
If you're enjoying this conversation, I invite you to go deeper down the rabbit hole with me on Next Level Soul TV. It's packed with exclusive content like live special guest Q&As, daily podcasts, commercial-free access to the entire Next Level Soul catalog, early access to episodes before they air, and special meditations you won't find anywhere else. We will be adding new exclusive content every month, plus you can connect with me during my monthly live streams. Just go to nextlevelsoul.com/subscribe and join our soulful community today. I'll see you on the inside.
They're beating out NVIDIA. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of Microsoft, Apple. Yeah.
All of them, all together. So that's why these truths, if grasped and understood by the general population, would overturn industries. If people understood that hydrogen was more efficient, hydrogen fuel cells were way more efficient than EV fuel cells and could charge up in 4 or 5 minutes, people would dump EVs in a heartbeat. That's the wave of the future, though. It's going to be hydrogen. But it just took all this time to get to it. Now, all of a sudden, a lot of these major car manufacturers are dumping EVs, and they're going to move into hydrogen, finally. But it took decades and decades.
Well,
people had to get killed.
We had electric cars in the 20s.
Yes, sure did. Facts.
We had electric cars in the 20s, but the oil industry is like, no.
Yeah, no.
Let's and even diesel. They killed diesel.
They killed it.
They killed him.
Yeah, I know they killed him.
They killed him, and because diesel's a much better engine than our engine now, the gas engine is diesel is a much more efficient engine.
Yeah, I know.
That's why it's in every single tractor trailer.
Facts. The guy who came up with the first hydrogen car, they killed him. He went to go meet with the Pentagon at lunch, and I don't know if he accepted the offer or not. I guess he didn't accept it because while he was eating, he got poisoned right there at one of those Cracker Barrel restaurants and died right there in the parking lot.
Cracker Barrel?
Yelling out, "They poisoned me."
At a Cracker Barrel?
Cracker Barrel. Yeah.
Damn. That's a tough way to go, man.
Tough way to go.
That's a tough way to go.
On biscuits and gravy. Oh, man, they got him.
They got him on biscuits and gravy. Well, that's a quick way to get me too, sir.
Yeah.
But so let's dive in a little bit into the Vatican a bit, because I know that's one of your favorite topics and definitely one of mine. Yeah. Ever since I went, I can't get it out of my head.
Oh, man.
St. Peter's Basilica, going underneath into the catacombs, walking through that museum that is just an embarrassment of riches. And that's all we see.
Yeah.
And it's packed. I don't know I'm sure you've been there. It's packed. Like you walk in and you're just like, there's not just one, sculpture. There's 45 of them jammed together on a wall.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's all we see. How powerful and influential is the Vatican still to this day? Because it has lost a lot of its luster, without question. When you and I were growing up in the 70s, the Roman Catholic Church could do no wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It was the Pope. Pope John Paul. Are you kidding? When they shot that poor man. I mean, it was like, oh, wait, what? You want to go straight to hell.
Yeah.
It's like a direct ticket. You don't even want to pass go. You just want to go straight to hell. But since then, obviously, the Vatican and the Catholic Church have taken a hit.
Yeah, they took a hit.
They've taken financially, but I have a feeling that financially it's going to be really difficult to dent them.
Yeah.
But how much power do they still have? Because people are leaving that religion in droves, and this, 1 or 2 generations from now,
they could be significantly weakened in 2 more generations.
Oh,
but right now they still have a lot of power. They still, they still invest a lot of money into governments. They fund wars from both sides. The Black Pope, and I don't mean a black man like African American, but the Black Pope is the one who wears the black robe. He is the super Jesuit, and the super Jesuit is the one that gives the okay for the wars to even happen.
Well, where's the main Pope?
The main Pope is just a puppet.
He's a figurehead.
Just like the President of the United States. They get a little bit of power here and they do some really menial things. But the real decisions and the real power is with the super Jesuit, the Black Pope.
Okay.
And the Black Pope okays wars. He okays invasions into countries. He okays bombs being dropped, all of that. He okays arms sales, and he even okays trafficking poppy seeds from Afghanistan, for example. That's the super Jesuit Black Pope.
What? So this Jesuit Black Pope, how is this like? Do the heads of state of all countries?
Yeah.
Even if they're not religious, and they still bow,
except for the Middle Eastern countries.
Middle Eastern guys don't.
Yeah, they don't rock with them.
They don't rock.
Yeah,
but Russia.
Yeah,
anything that's ever had a Catholic Church.
Anything that's ever had a Catholic Church, they bow down to the Black Pope. The Black Pope has the ultimate power still to this very day. Still okays and makes decisions on a lot of things going on in the world, even economic decisions as well. Really? And it's a dark thing. I think I posted about 5 years ago the oath of the super Jesuit Black Pope on my Facebook page, on Forbidden Knowledge Facebook page. I got to pull it up and send it to you. It's crazy. This is the actual oath from the Vatican that this Black Pope reads to get initiated into his priesthood for that role that he'll play. It's super dark.
So, but this is public knowledge?
Yeah, it is public knowledge. It's not.
This is not like behind closed
secret.
doors.
No, this is public. It's in your face, but nobody even knows it's there, so they don't go look it up. But I took it right from the Vatican's website.
How much stuff do they have in those archives?
Oh, listen, they have 5 miles of underground archives.
5 miles?
5 miles.
That's a lot of Walmarts.
That's a lot of Walmarts, man. They got a huge bunker down there. And you know where else they have a bunker? They have a bunker in America. I believe it's in Arizona. They bought a huge piece of land. It's either in Arizona or Nevada.
One of those,
somewhere in that desert area. They brought a telescope. They had it custom built by some incredible tech guys, and it's called the Lucifer telescope.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. A+ on the naming. Great branding, by the way. Great branding.
The light bearer.
Yeah.
Right? So they got the Lucifer telescope, but underneath the Lucifer telescope is a massive underground bunker. Massive. And the Vatican's assistant, as for aerospace and tech, says that they're actively looking for aliens, and that the Pope can't wait to baptize the first alien. This is a public press release by the Vatican that anybody could look up.
Baptize.
They want to baptize
because the alien needs Jesus.
Right.
I hate that. And this is the thing, and I've said this on the show a million times, and I'll say it again and again, is when I was sitting in the front of St. Peter's Basilica, and I'm looking around, and I'm seeing everything. I'm going, this has nothing to do with Jesus.
Nothing. Zero.
Like, it has nothing to do with Jesus.
Yeah. It's not even in the same category.
Nothing. Like nothing that the Roman Catholic Church ever had is done has to do with Jesus. It's about power and control and their own agenda. It has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
When I discovered about this, the Council of Nicaea, when I discovered about all the other councils, about writing and building the Bible, and like editing things out, like no reincarnation, we can't have that. That's not good for control.
Right.
Ooh, this Lucifer thing, that was good because let's the hell thing. But the Old Testament doesn't have anything about hell.
No.
The Jews never. There was no hell.
Yeah.
They're like, we need something.
Gotta have something, man.
We gotta have something. And there was like a writer's room.
Yeah.
Like a TV show.
Gotta keep them on the edge.
Gotta keep them. What do we got? Oh, let's go. Hell.
Yeah.
Dante, come over here.
An eternal lake of fire.
Exactly.
Dante's fire.
Oh yeah, Jesus said something about that lake. Let's use that. We'll call that hell.
Yeah.
It's the more you dig, and the more I've done this show, and I talk to people like yourself.
Yeah.
I start going down these rabbit holes,
Yeah.
and you just start going, man, this whole thing is just
It's a joke.
It's insane.
I mean, look at the rapture doctrine, that these people are literally waiting to be raptured into heaven. And they believe that on this special day that the infidels will be left here on earth.
Right, because that's the way God works.
And they'll be sucked away into heaven.
Sure.
And even the dead in Christ will be sucked out of the ground, and their spirits will be transferred into heaven. But that was added by a guy named Mr. Darby in the 1800s, I believe. And he actually was a publisher. And he added a cliff note to the Bible. Now, some preachers saw it and said, man, this could be powerful preaching.
This good.
Yeah, that's right.
We can work with this.
That's right. So they worked it into the doctrine and started reprinting, and then next thing you know, it became part of like actual doctrine and teaching, where people are sitting back, kicking their feet up, watching the world burn, waiting for this special rapture that whisked them away into this heavenly kingdom.
So it was just written by a publisher to sell some books.
That's all it was.
And that's the thing I always find so fascinating about religion in general, that like my God, and I believe that we're the chosen people, not you.
Right. Yeah, right.
We're the chosen people.
Oh, yeah, you're the chosen one.
We're the chosen people. I believe in this, so because I believe in this, the Almighty only loves me.
Right.
Though He created you and the rest of everybody else, He likes me.
Yeah, you're special.
It seems a little egotistical.
What about the promised land that He gave me?
Yeah, of course.
He gave me this land. And you know what? This land is our land, and we can take this land by any means necessary, even if it means killing you to take this land, because it's God's promise to us.
What was it called? Manifest Destiny?
Manifest Destiny.
Manifest Destiny.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
That was lovely, wasn't it? That gave everybody an excuse to kill people and steal their land.
Facts.
God, Billy.
Absolute facts. And it's all just men fabricating information and preaching it out as if it came from the creator of the universe, when it didn't.
Because if the more I dig, that's why I've always kind of leaned much more towards the Eastern philosophies, even Hinduism and Buddhism. Yeah. They didn't have as much fear-based, though there's a little bit of it in Hinduism, but there's a lot of it in Hinduism, but different. Yeah. But you start digging into the yogic philosophies. God is all loving, all powerful, all everything. Yeah. And you are Him. Yes. You are part of, and I say Him for lack of a better word.
I know what you mean.
But you are source. Everything is part of that energy. Yeah. And when I hurt you, I'm hurting myself.
Facts.
It's a completely different mindset than I can't wait to baptize the alien. Are you out of your mind?
And if you're not baptized, you're not really living in Christ and all that.
Don't even get me started when my kids were born. My parents were just like, "Oh man, are you just in case?" I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna baptize them just in case."
It's all divide and conquer tactics. It's all the
the Tower of Babel.
I'm Baptist and you're Pentecostal, so we're better than you.
Oh no, yeah, and then within Christianity, then there's like 45 sects, and they're all fighting with each other. It's absolutely fascinating.
It's wild.
Now, one area I've never really talked about on the show, and I hopefully you have some information about it, is the Ethiopian Bible, and the Ethiopian Christianity in general. I mean, you and I grew up in a time when you hear Ethiopia, you see the videos. Yeah. The kids starving.
The kids with the big stomachs.
All that stuff. That was burned into our. Yeah. That's what our parents told us.
$1 a day.
That's what our parents told us when we didn't want to eat our vegetables. Yeah. There's kids starving in Ethiopia. You got to eat. So that's all most people think about when they think about Ethiopia. Facts. But recently, though, and I might say recently, maybe it's recent because I just realized it a while ago. But there's the Ethiopian Bible,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll get into the Ark of the Covenant after.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about what's so different about the Ethiopian Bible?
Sure, absolutely. Now, Ethiopia has black Jews.
Uh-huh.
The origin of actually the black Jews is in Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have it's spurred off into this form of Christianity as well, where they actually have one of the most complete Bibles that exist.
Right.
And they have the full book of Enoch in the Ethiopian Bible. It's the only Bible that has the book of Enoch in it. All of the Bibles around the world, the book of Enoch was left out.
That's the angels, the fall.
Azazel, all the fallen angels that came down, and they taught people how to. Azazel came down and said, "Let me show you how to make these weapons right quick. Let me show you how to make a sword that'll slice a man's head off, and make a shield that can repel any blade." I mean, this is craziness. But they have it in there, and you find out that these fallen angels, quote unquote aliens, come down on Earth and start engaging mankind in a way that sets us on this other trajectory, technologically, spiritually, and emotionally, and everything else. They literally violated like a prime directive to not engage, and they engaged, and because of that, they created a cargo cult here, where people are worshiping beings, thinking that they were godly and everything else, but in the fact is they were just masquerading as gods. But then the Ethiopian Bible, there's a lot of information that's mistranslated, that you can see the differences that from the mistranslated version of the King James and the new whatever translation Bible. They got so many names for these Bibles now in America, but you can see where in the Ethiopian Bible, the text is different. Certain paragraphs, certain verses are completely different. Certain verses are there and certain verses aren't even there. They don't even exist. So you can see where the remix came on this side.
The Eminem remix?
Yeah, the remix. Listen, they came with they remixed that thing, and they changed a lot of things up and added some stuff that don't even exist. In the Sinai Bible, there's 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Bible.
What's the Sinai Bible?
The Sinai Bible predates the King James Version by hundreds of years, or maybe even almost 1,000 years.
And how about Ethiopian? Where's that?
Ethiopian Bibles around the same time as the Sinai Bible, in that same age range. They're both older. Hence, their information is probably closer to the truth than the newer versions, because the newer versions got the Council of Nicaea and everything else in them. And in Sinai Bible, there wasn't even a crucifixion.
Really?
Yeah, no crucifixion in the Sinai Bible. Yeah.
So how did how happened to Jesus?
Well, it's interesting that they did find the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary now.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let's back up here for a second. Now, I'm not a good Catholic boy anymore. I'm a bad Catholic. I'm a horrible recovering Catholic. And I've heard the stories of Mary Magdalene was not the hoe,
right,
but was actually his wife.
Yeah.
And ascended master now, and she was, her and Mary had a lot to do with what was going on. I didn't know about. There's a book
of Jesus' wife, which was discovered, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or something like that.
Oh, really? So it's recent.
Yeah.
Where did they find it?
Somewhere over there, some cave or something or whatever.
Some scroll somewhere?
Yeah.
But it's in the Harvard
Seminary.
Really?
Yeah.
And what does that book say?
Well, it's talking about the fact that Jesus apparently got married, and it doesn't say that he had any kids, but potentially he probably had kids, and the Merovingian bloodline is probably still walking the earth till this very day.
Very Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
Very Da Vinci Code in that sense.
Very.
So, okay, let's talk about the crucifixion, because that's a great story.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're going to probably step on a few people's toes having this on this conversation, but if that is just a story about what happened, I mean, it's a great. I mean, it's just as a filmmaker and a storyteller, great arc.
Yeah.
Great everything.
Oh yeah.
It does definitely help control people more, as opposed to he rode off into the sunset with his wife, had a couple kids, wrote a book or two, and that's it.
Yeah, it's very dramatic. Let's take a look at just bare bones logic, okay? God is all-knowing and all-loving, according to Christians and even Catholics, right? All-knowing, all-loving. Now, if he's all-knowing and all-loving, omniscient and omnipotent, and all-powerful, and he's created us, and for whatever reason, he can't just come down and give us a good lesson. Like when you have a kid, like my kids, I would sit them down and I would go over things with them and explain things to them and make sure they understand. And if they do make a mistake, I teach them the right way to do things so they don't go back and duplicate that mistake again. But apparently this all-knowing, all-loving creator of multiverses just can't seem to communicate well. Has a communication problem. So it says to he says to himself, I got an idea. Since I'm a poor communicator, I'll have a son and then I'll slaughter him, and that blood from him being slaughtered will clear the sins of everyone in the entire world. Only if they bow down to me or bow down to him. I mean, it's very cynical. It's really a very dark story. It's really very evil. If you really want, if you really take a look at it.
It is an evil,
sadistic.
It is an evil story. But if we go down, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. But if we go down the logic that that we are down here to learn lessons and to grow and all of that stuff, and we have free will, having someone intercede like God doesn't work with that narrative. Yeah. So that logic, as far as him not coming down. But the whole son thing, I'm all about with you. Yeah. I'm down. Did that make sense what I said?
Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But he accidentally somehow can't stop his own people that he created in heaven, stop them from coming down and engaging us nonstop. So we have this free will and all this, and right. There should be no engagement. There should be this, we shouldn't be engaged by anybody or anything from up there. But all of a sudden, they're continuously contacting us, and they're continuously teaching us how to kill each other and everything else. And the angels in the Bible are getting drunk and having sex with men and women and everything else. I mean, it was just a smorgasbord of stuff going on. But he couldn't just snap his finger and say, hey, guys, I'm going to make you disappear. Come back up here with me. You can't go down there anymore. You're violating the prime directive. But he couldn't do that either. So, it just makes you scratch your head like something's wrong with this. But what about in the Old Testament where I think it was Abraham, he sends him into the mountain to kill his son, and he's trying to judge to see, maybe his name wasn't, I can't remember. I mean, I might think it was Abraham though, but he sends him into the mountain and says, I want you to go ahead and sacrifice your son to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this guy is suffering the whole time, and he finally gets his son in position, and he's got the knife up, and he's getting ready to drive it through his son's throat. And then God goes, no. I'm just playing,
Josh,
man.
Just Josh.
I just want to see if you was faithful.
See,
bro, come on.
All of that stuff does not make any sense.
Zero.
I mean, we're parents.
Yeah.
Never will I tell my kid, I need you to slit your sibling's neck.
Come on.
Because I want to make sure you're loyal to me.
Right. Come on.
And then just before they take the knife.
No.
Talk about some therapy.
You're talking about that's lifetime trauma. That's going to go into the epigenetic memory. That's real generational trauma that was caused by that incident.
So, and that's the thing about a lot of these religious texts that are within the last 2,000 years, let's say, is that there's so many holes in the plot.
Yes.
And these holes are now starting to be shown and light shined on these ideas, where people now are just like, this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Kids are coming out. This new generation's coming out. They're like, I'm not going. What? You want me to go sit down, listen to this dude, talk to me something? I mean, unless it's a communal thing, like you want to have community, and that's a different. Religion does well for a lot of people.
It does. There's no doubt about that.
Religion does well for a lot of people, and it's not like a broad stroke. But for others that, like I remember when I was in first grade going to church, I'm like, what is it? Like up and down and the kneel and the this and the that. It was just so much ceremony and pomp and circumstance. I was just like, it doesn't make any sense. No. So as opposed to 100 years ago, you and I would have both been lynched.
Oh, listen, I'd have been burned at the stake. They'd have burned me at the stake.
We're warlocks, we're everything. Just having these conversations 100, 200 years ago. So, but humanity has kind of evolved a bit because that is this new shifting of our consciousness. Yeah. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're shifting consciously, spiritually. We're growing more spiritually now than we have ever had before. And what that means is that it's not that the whole world is spiritual, but more people are more apt to grasp spiritual concepts. And in other words, in spirituality, we're talking about understanding the divine nature of themselves, understanding that they have the power in themselves, understanding that they were sent here to save themselves. That's a huge epiphany moment, that instead of begging some outside source for forgiveness, realizing, hey, I screwed up. I got to take accountability for what I did. Let me learn from this mistake. Let me get a better understanding of how I did it and why I did it, and let me learn from it and don't duplicate that again. That's how you become born again. born again in the spirit. And you'll be born again many times in one lifetime, and you'll be able to look back on yourself and realize, I was down here, now I'm all the way up here because I've grown spiritually and I'm becoming an ascended master. And that's what being born again really is all about, not somebody splashing water on you. Okay, so that's just, it doesn't do anything for you, but gets you wet. And now that people are realizing that, and these younger generation, they're really grasping these principles and beginning to really get into meditation, get into trauma work and therapy. They're not afraid of therapy. They're open to. Can you
imagine our generation?
Oh my God!
Therapy. Imagine our parents going to therapy.
Shrinks? Are you going to a shrink? Listen, it was like an insult.
Were you crazy?
Yeah, you crazy, huh? It's like an insult.
Shove it down like the rest of us.
Yeah,
and I'll just beat you
right.
every other day.
Right. Exactly.
And we just move on with life.
Facts.
That's the way it was.
Yeah. And and there's a quick thing. There's an illusion that the youth aren't progressing like that because of the news and the media.
Oh no.
They only show the crazy kids on TV, rioting and stealing things out of stores. But let me tell you something. There are literally billions of kids on this planet that are looking and thriving and looking for the light, seeking the light, and trying to become a better version of themselves. Not only what you see on Instagram feeds and the news.
Absolutely. I thank you for saying that because you're absolutely right. I see it in the analytics of the show.
Yeah.
I see a lot of younger teens and younger people. Yeah. Even my kids' friends who know I have a show will be like, hey, I was watching this episode and with Billy and it was pretty cool. And it's just making them think about things in a completely different way. But they're kind of keen on the whole scam almost.
Oh yeah.
Before we even talk to them, they're just like, this doesn't make a lot of sense.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, man.
So you want me to go to a 4-year school, and you want me to spend $180,000 for a job that might pay me $60 if I can find the job, and then I can't get rid of this debt.
Yeah,
it sounds like prison to me. Like
yeah. They know.
One of my kids showed. I swear to God, I didn't even mean to do this.
Yeah,
she came up. She's like, Dad, I want you to see this, and she goes. He goes, this is a picture of a classroom in 1910.
Oh, man.
This is a picture of a classroom right now. What the hell, Dad? I'm like, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But see, that's the kind of stuff that they're figuring out.
Yeah,
man. It's mind-blowing, man. Now, going back to Ethiopia, there's a lot of hoopla around the Ark of the Covenant down there. Because I've seen the doc where they're like, oh, we have it.
Yeah.
We have it, and then, like anyone goes near it, like whoever guards it dies of cancer because of some radiation thing.
Right.
No one's allowed in it.
Right.
What's your take on first of all, what was the Ark of the Covenant? Yeah. Do they have it? Were there 4 or 5 of them running around?
Right.
Tell me.
Okay, so the Ark of the Covenant is this technological device that created immense power and gave off a lot of radiation, and we know this because of the way that it's described in the biblical text. If you didn't have on the right clothes, rubber boots, and the different types of breastplates you had on gloves, rubber gloves, and everything else to handle it, it would shock you and kill you instantly. And if you were exposed to it too long, it would give you radiation or the signs of radiation sickness, right? Hair falling out and fingernails falling out, eyes bleeding, and so forth and so on. And so they had this device that was this powerhouse for them, but it wasn't the only one. There were several Arks of the Covenant. One of them was located inside the Great Pyramid, inside the King's Chamber. There's a stone rose granite box in the King's Chamber that are the exact same dimensions in cubits as the Ark of the Covenant. It was added later because the pyramid had lost its ability to generate the full power, so they put the Ark in that rose granite box to add the extra technological piece so it can continue to produce electricity. So this thing was very important. I mean, that's the main reason why Moses was chased when he fled Egypt. He went and took the Ark of the Covenant out of the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. And the Pharaoh was like, damn, I let you go. And now you took our power source. We need that back. And so they chased him down. He didn't cross the Red Sea. That's another one of those remixes. He crossed the Sea of Reeds when you go look at the Aramaic version, a much closer and smaller sea. And then if you look at the tectonic plates on USGS and all the other gov sites that show you all the tectonic plate movement, you can do a geological rewind in that region, and you'll discover around that same time period that the biblical text is talking about the story, there was a tectonic plate slippage, which would have caused a tsunami. And when you have a tsunami, it sucks all the water out and you could walk across dry land, and it brings it crashing back, just like it says in the biblical text. So it probably was a tsunami. Nobody's standing there with magic powers. But pretty interesting. So this ark is important. That's the point I'm making. It's very, very important. Now, this church down in Ethiopia, according to one of the docs that came on, and that's really a sad thing that happened. I believe that they did have an ark or a version of the Ark of the Covenant there. But the people, when they highlighted it being located there and even showed the picture of the church where it was at and how it was being guarded by these guys, these old men.
Yeah, I was going to say guarded.
They were just sitting there.
You're using that term loosely.
I know. Yeah, they just sitting there watching in robes all day. These guys couldn't even do 5 push-ups.
Right.
These are old men, and then they just exposed where it was. And supposedly, not too much longer after that doc ended, it was stolen. Really? Yeah, it was taken away. Somebody went in there, and they just literally walked in and walked out with it. Nobody could stop them. I mean, there was no cops. There's no cops to call. There's no police over there. So they just walked out with that thing, and it's never been seen again. That's one of the Arks of the Covenant. So these things were powerful. Now, some scientists at a university in America, and I think one even in Canada, recreated the Ark based off of the specs just out of the biblical text. And it drew so much power and energy, they had to shut it down.
So they rebuilt it.
They rebuilt it.
So it's just because they built it out of the specs of it.
Yeah, the specs.
So the material it was made out of, and the actual
size, the dimensions, the 2 cherubims, which were really to harness the ark. It was the ark. The ark was really the electric arc of electricity, jumping from one to the next. But you can watch the video on YouTube. They recreated this ark. It's available. You can just pull it up and look it right up.
But what was the technology? What was it touching? What was it grabbing onto for the power?
For them, it's just electricity.
No, but like how? Like what is it? Is it pulling it from the air? What's the technology?
Yeah,
what's the technology?
For the actual ark that was in the biblical text, I believe it was some type of radioactive material that was creating the power generation for the electricity. Now, when they did it with batteries, and they did it by plugging it in, and it drew so much power, it even shut down the lights.
So the design of it is so perfectly designed that plugging in any electricity is going to just amp it up.
It amps it.
But what they did back in the olden days, there was some sort of radiation in there. Mercury has a lot. There's talks a lot about mercury in the Great Pyramids and things like that.
Oh yeah, Teotihuacan had mercury in it as well.
Right.
That's a ferrofluid, a liquid metal, and you see this mercury popping up all over the place throughout ancient times,
which is extremely poisonous.
Yeah, extremely poisonous. I mean, extremely toxic. You can't even touch it with your hands.
Can you imagine? They used to give that to you as a kid as a thermometer.
Bro, crazy.
You want to hear a quick story?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go to school one day, and I put that thing on a light bulb.
Oh no!
And it popped right off.
Oh man!
And the mercury came out. I never touched it; it just fell on the floor.
Yeah.
But I just saw it go bloop, 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 bloop.
Oh man!
Can you imagine?
Dangerous. Yeah. It was. We're lucky to be here.
No. How our generation in general is alive.
We grew up in an era with
no seatbelts,
lead wick candles, which gave me lead poisoning. By the way.
Wow.
Yeah, I got lead poisoning. All my hair fell out and everything. They were like, took me to the hospital. What's going on? They took a blood sample. It was lead poisoning. Come to find out, it was the lead wick candle. They're banned now. You can't even have a lead wick candle anymore in America.
My grandfather smoked cigars, and the entire room like this would be filled with cigars.
Yes.
And I'm 3.
Yeah.
I'm 3 playing in a cloud of cigar smoke.
Our ceiling was yellow from the
asbestos.
No, from the cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we're really aging ourselves smoking on airplanes.
Oh man.
Because that curtain helped.
Yeah. The curtain.
Remember that curtain? You're smoking.
Yeah.
Keep it all over there, please.
Right. Oh my God.
No seatbelts.
Yeah. Drinking out of the water hose.
I mean, that's how I think that's just helped our immune system at this point.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating how we survived. I always like to tell my kids, I'm like, back in the day, the newscaster would come on at 10 o'clock and would say, what would he say?
Which one?
Every time.
Oh man.
It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?
Oh man, you're right.
They would have to remind our parents that we have kids.
And after that, it would go to white snow.
White snow, or the Indian with the kind of like the. you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The thing to check focus and all that stuff. Color bars and stuff like that. Back in the day.
The color bars. Those bars and funny noise.
Yeah, that's it. But if not, it was just snow.
Yeah, but you're right.
We're old, bro.
Yeah, we're old. We're out there, man.
We're out there, man.
Crazy.
So I wanted to just dive real quick back into Yeshua, because one of my favorite topics is to talk about the time that he was born.
Mm-hmm.
Then last story we hear is he's 13,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up on a donkey.
Yeah.
The yada 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 is the
Yeah.
part that I always asked questions about when I was in Catholic school.
Yeah.
I asked my priest, I'm like, so what happened during that time? He's like,
Yeah.
we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Where's the book? Oh, we don't.
Yeah.
Is there any historical documents
Mm-hmm.
that talk about that time in Jesus' life?
Yeah. The Gospel of the Holy 12.
Where's that?
That you can buy it on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there's two versions. One is the Gospel of the Holy 12 with the 1-2. That's not the story of the Jesus. That's a whole other thing. But that's some independent publisher. But there's the Gospel of the Holy 12, spelled out TWELVE. That's the actual text.
Mm-hmm.
And you discover that he goes to Egypt to live there with his mother. He's in the mystery schools. And I take people to Coptic Cairo every year. I'll be there in a few more weeks to take people to see the bed he slept in. It's like a shrine now instead of one of the Coptic churches where he was hiding out and living with his mom. And then when you come out of that Coptic church, there's this huge steel sign with the path and the locations that he stayed at as he lived throughout Egypt. And he's learning the Egyptian mysteries there. He then leaves there and he goes to Tibet to learn Reiki healing and Qigong and healing with the hands and energy healing with his body. And that was confirmed by the Dalai Lama. Then he goes down into India to learn the mystic arts, and he's teaching reincarnation all the way back to Egypt. Then the Bible picks up, I call my son out of Egypt, and then he rides it on the back of a donkey in Jerusalem, proclaims himself to be the Messiah. So that's the missing piece. The missing piece is where he was, and he was learning a lot of stuff.
Did he proclaim himself as the Messiah?
Well, that's what they say. I've never seen
a very un-Jesus-like
I never
thing.
see where he just walks in, I'm your Messiah now.
Like, that doesn't seem like,
Yeah.
based on the teachings that I've read about of Jesus, he doesn't seem like that egotistical dude going, I'm the Messiah.
Yeah.
You got to be at a special place in your life to call yourself the Messiah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I know.
And I worked in Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah. He called himself the Son of Man.
Which that is a little bit more humble.
And now what's interesting is, look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, written 36,000 years ago. He calls himself the Son of Atlantis. Okay, and he also calls himself a Son of Man in several verses in the Emerald Tablets. Why would he say that? What in the world's going on? What's the correlation between Jesus and this guy? I've never heard anybody else say that except for those two people. Say that they're the Son of Man, and also Thoth says he's the Son of Atlantis. Interesting.
But so Jesus also, a lot of the things that I heard about him, read about him in the Bible and so on, the miracles seem very yogic.
Yeah.
They're yogic powers, essentially.
Yeah.
Manifestation. A lot of the stuff that they say that were miracles, you read Autobiography of a Yogi, and then you go down that yogic path, and this seems very yogic.
Yeah, very yogic. And also, some things like the resurrection of Lazarus. I mean, the guy could have been in a comatose state, or he could have been in a state where he had a reduced heart rate. A lot of people died back then. We thought they were dead. They weren't even close to being dead. I mean, still people pop out of their caskets today. Somebody popped out of their casket 2 weeks ago. They were alive still. So wait a minute. So what happened back then? Maybe he learned CPR. Maybe he preferred something, not preferred, but he actually did something to the chest, or
some energy healing. Something.
Energy healing. And whatever. So there's so many possibilities, but we always want to mystify things, and we always want to turn it into some kind of special magic. And it's always ironic that if you get into a car accident, or somebody loved one, gets into a car accident, right? We got to pray. And if the person makes it, it was God. The doctor had nothing to do with it, right? And then if the person dies, it was the Lord's will. Come on.
It was the doctor's fault too.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
I always found it fascinating when I was on a football team back in the day.
Yeah.
Where it was a Catholic football team.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh, let's pray.
Yeah.
Lord, please guide us into pummeling our opponents.
I know.
And destroying them.
Yeah.
We love them, but, be on our side.
Right.
Like, it's the same thing as two warring factions. Like, my God's on my side and he's not on your side. It made no sense. Even then, I'm like, but that's God's kids over there too. Like, that makes no sense.
Complete brainwashing and ignorance for a person to think that the creator of a universe, who's out there continuously, because a creator never stops creating. We're creators, so you stop creating anything yet?
I'm every day.
You built this whole studio. You still want to create on another level. Think about that. You're
the
a God.
Next level.
The next level. The next level. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're going to continue to create and create and
Sure.
create. So we're just a fractal of God.
Sure.
So that means God is creating nonstop. Let me stop creating for a moment, because there's a football team over here in Mitsubishi land, and I just got to fly down there, and I got to help them out and make sure they win this. I mean, come on. This is just craziness. For us to think that God is here to help us fight wars and is here to help us win games and help our favorite team win the game and help us win the lottery, and we're trying to turn God into a slave.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, when you pray for something, you pray for something.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of great energy out there, in the sense of like, I have a relative who's dying, or my kid got hurt. You want to be able to like, Lord, please help my child.
Yeah.
Please get him through this. I get all that. That makes all the sense in the world. We've been there.
We've been there.
We've all been there.
We've been there.
Everyone finds Jesus when they have a problem. Everyone finds Jesus.
They hit that desperation mode.
When they're in when they're in Positano and the Amalfi Coast on their yacht, drinking champagne, eating lobster all night, they're like, they're not looking for Jesus, generally speaking. Generally speaking. So it's always that part. But from what I hear from the near-death experiencers I've spoken to, and psychic mediums and channelers, is that prayer does have a power.
Oh, yeah, it does.
There is a power because it's a power of thought and intention.
Yep.
And it does affect the material world.
Yeah.
And that, according to near-death experiencers, those prayers do go somewhere. And they do have an effect.
Oh, yeah.
To a certain extent. Not in the way we think it is. Like, please, Lord, let me get a 7. Like that's,
Snake eyes.
Snake eyes. Oh, karma. Damn, karma from another life. Damn it. But a different way. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. I tell people all the time, prayer is good and prayer actually works if you know how to pray. I said the reason why a lot of prayers aren't working the way that, or turning out the way that we would like them to, is because you have to understand, when you pray, you're trying to cast a spell. Whether they want to admit it or not, if you're praying, you're trying to cast a spell. You're trying to utter words and use conscious thoughts that are going to alter your future reality in the third dimension. You're trying to cast a spell and change things, no matter what it is. But if you don't know how to cast the right spells, you can't create the change, not the proper change. You'll get some result, but you won't get the total result. That's why I lean more towards the East. What are their method of praying? It is done, right? It is actually done. That's the full prayer. When I grasped and understood exactly what they meant, I realized that from now on, my prayer is I command. So that's my prayer. When I got on the plane to come here today, I literally got on the plane, I sat down, I closed my eyes and envisioned the flight path from my house to this airport, and I said to myself, I command a safe takeoff and a safe landing, and I command I make it to my destination safely. I didn't say, oh, please, Lord, and please allow everything to work out right, and the plane can take off, and we don't crash and all this. No, that's low frequency. If I put an EEG cap on your head and have you start begging and praying to God, it's going to give me a low cosine wave on the computer. It's capturing your light waves. Your conscious thoughts are being sent to a computer. If I put that same EEG cap on your head and have you stand up and stick your chest out and say, I command my realities into existence. I command I make it through this situation. I'm going to see a very high close-in cosine wave on the computer. Means you're in a high-frequency state of mind. Now, what's the difference? High frequency to the universe is going to give you a mirror back of high frequency. Low frequency is going to give you back a mirror of low frequency under the law of attraction. If you're in a low frequency, you're going to have a problem for every solution. But when you flip that switch and go to a high frequency state of mind, positivity and love and light and everything else is going to come your way. Opportunities, situations are going to change. You're going to bend the matrix to your will. And so people don't understand there's a way to pray, and I pray every single day, multiple times a day, but I'm not praying the same way to somebody else. I'm not getting on my knees and groveling and crying and begging, hoping and wishing. I'm commanding my realities into existence moment by moment because the power of the Creator is inside of me.
Right, which is basically manifestation.
Exactly.
It's the proper way that The Secret should have been done.
Yes. Yeah.
But The Secret did have a lot of benefit.
It had a lot of benefit, a lot of effect. It opened up a lot of minds.
It opened up a lot of minds to this.
Yeah.
Regardless, people were like, "Why didn't I get my bike? Why didn't I get my bike? Because you're not doing it right."
Yeah. You have to put. There's a calculator. I have the shirt on. This is my manifestation shirt. CT, which is conscious thought, multiplied by A equals M. Conscious thought multiplied by action equals manifestation.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah. That's the thing that they didn't get. Like, there's action.
There's
involved.
action. Yeah.
That's part of the equation. That's not an easy sell.
Yeah.
That's not an easy sell.
You got to do some work? Oh, man.
I just wanted to get the lottery tickets. Yeah. Lottery numbers, man. But that was the thing with manifestation. So it's very... it's fascinating, man, how human beings are.
Yeah, I know. We always want the easy route and the shortcut.
So you spoke about the Thoth and the Emerald Tablets. For those who have not listened, we've spoken about it on our other episodes a bit, but I've really never dug into the actual tablets. That if you go on Etsy, you could buy a green tablet. Which is nice.
I have one.
You have one, exactly. You have one of those tablets. But so how? Because it doesn't exist currently. That we know of, right? That an actual tablet.
The tablets, the Emerald Tablet singular is in the Cambridge Library.
So there is an Emerald Tablet.
There's in the tablet. There's another book of tablets that are located in the Vatican archives.
Okay, so so at least one of those Vatican archives we can't tell because no one's ever allowed in there.
We can't get in there.
But in Cambridge, that is an actual people. You could verify that.
Yeah.
So there is an Emerald Tablet. Okay, I always wondered about that. I'm like, where is the tablet?
Right.
What happened to it?
Yeah.
How old is it supposedly?
36 to 38,000 years old.
So that's not possible because we were only born like 6,000 years ago, sir. I don't understand. Did you not read the Bible?
The earth is only 6,000 years old, man.
6,000 years old. I mean, it's flat. I could see it. Do you see a curve anywhere? Do you see a curve anywhere? That's going to get some comments.
There's going to be a lot of comments. Oh, man.
It's You know what's interesting though, and we'll get back to the Emerald Tablets in a second, but I heard someone say something. I don't know if it might have been on my show. I think it might have been a channel who I was talking to, and they said something that was so powerful that the people who believe in something like the Earth is flat, that is so provable that it's not, or a lot of conspiracy theories. What they are connecting to on an energetic level is that they know something's wrong, that there's something off with what they're being told, and this is how they're manifesting it in their life. And I thought that was like, wow, and that was like a channeled being coming through saying that. I was like, wow, that's really, because there's a lot of that going on. A lot of people listening to us think that we're talking about things that are conspiracy theories.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people who think that, and I tend not to go down that road. I don't have my tinfoil hat on at the moment. I try to keep everything as grounded as humanly possible, but also opening up questions, conversations, and things like that. But isn't that interesting that that there's things there's a rise in consciousness, but some people can't grasp it, so they just manifest there's something wrong in this other fashion.
And they become a fanatic at that thing.
Right. They go down deep rabbit holes on those things.
They become extremely fanatical. These are people that are susceptible to fanaticism. They can't grasp some of the concepts that actually exist and some of the things that are being taught. And then they can grasp one thing, like you say, something is off. And they will latch on to that one thing, even if it's been disproven a trillion times, which it has actually with lasers. Recently, with lasers has been disproven.
You could go up and look at the curvature of the Earth.
I know, but even with lasers has been disproven just a few weeks ago. But anyway, they'll never let it go because this the only thing they're holding on to is all they've got left to, and they become fanatics at it. And so, in that regard, I have some empathy for those people because they're really struggling with that thing. It's traumatizing for them. This is not something easy for them. It's actually traumatizing them. It's haunting their almost every thought on a daily basis. And it's unfortunate. It doesn't mean that they're bad people or anything like that. But I have had some death threats from flat Earth people. And they told me they were going to shoot me in the head and kill me and everything at my conference and so forth. But for the most part, I think most of them are just people just trying to find some sensibility of the world itself and their place in it.
Well, I think that's the thing that happens to. I think that's a very human thing, is that if I wrap my belief system around anything, whether that rich people are bad. I'm the chosen person. What a religion, a philosophy. My whole world is around that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you crack a hole in that, it shakes my foundation.
Facts.
So if I shakes my foundation, I must defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I'm like, you're the problem, not looking inward, and maybe investigating that my belief system might not be exactly what it is, but I have to attack you. That's throughout human history.
Yeah.
Essentially, right?
It's human nature.
It's a human nature.
Yeah.
A human nature thing where I try to, at least on this show, I'm very open-minded. And I try to listen to everybody. Yeah. I don't agree with everything. I'm sure you don't either.
I don't agree with everything either. But I'm not going to go and attack anybody.
If someone, I had someone the other day that came on the show who was sitting in your chair and was saying things that I'm like, okay, okay, like I'm you're not hurting anybody,
right?
And that's fine. I'm completely cool with it. Yeah. And I'd say my piece. He said his piece. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's okay.
We're not supposed to be the same.
It's okay to agree to disagree.
That is perfectly fine.
Yep.
And I think if we all did that a little bit more, the world would be a little bit better. Because look, at the end of the day, I like Star Wars. You might like Star Trek.
Right. Right.
And there's been some battles. Yeah. If you've been to a Comic-Con, you've seen the Jedi and the... Yeah. Well, obviously the Jedis would win. But anyway, that's a whole other story. See, now that's going to get the worst comments out of all of them. Oh, man. Oh. All right, back to the Emerald Tablets. Yes. So how old is the Emerald Tablets?
36,000 to 38,000 years old.
And the information that you've read, all these translations come from whatever tablets have survived? Where does that information come from?
They come from people who have actually had access to the tablets.
Okay, so it's secondhand.
Secondhand, yeah.
Verbal.
Yeah, Sir Isaac Newton, Roger Bacon, Duval. I mean, there's so many. The Queen of Sheba. I mean, the list is all. I've listed all these.
So there's a lot. So there's a lot of people who have had access to them.
St. Thomas Aquinas.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where all that information comes from.
Right. So when I can see that many people having access to these tablets.
And serious people.
Yeah. But these are big names.
These are good branding. I mean, good marketing on these guys. Yeah.
And coming up with their own interpretation of the tablets over different time periods. So now I have to say, wait a minute, this isn't just a one-off. This thing, they existed. And then, of course, having the link to the singular tablet located in Cambridge. Okay, well, now and there's more. There's another writing by Thoth, which is being dug for right now. Archaeologists are searching like crazy every single day in Egypt trying to find this other book of Thoth that exists. They're digging holes everywhere looking for this thing for since 2014 when I was there the very first time. They've been digging since then and haven't stopped yet looking for this.
How do they know it's there?
It's talked about in other ancient Egyptian texts that it exists, and so they're trying to find it
before somebody else.
Yeah, right.
And who was Thoth?
Thoth he called himself a son of Atlantis. Mm-hmm. He says he's an Atlantean priest king. According to the ancient Egyptians, he ruled over the land of ancient Kemet for 16,000 years, one man. What's interesting, that's around the time period right after the Sumerian kings list handed down kingship to people in that region. But in Egypt, other kings, other Netiru were ruling over that land. Mm-hmm. And the lifespans in the Sumerian kings list are super long, 16,000 years, 26,000 years, 36,000. That's the ruling years. That's not the lifespan. Mm-hmm. So you see this guy, all of a sudden, he's ruling for 16,000 years, right around that same time frame. It matches up with the Sumerian kings list. They really had these lifespans. In ancient Sumerian, he was known as Ningajita, right? And in Egypt, he was known as Thoth, but also known as Tahuti and Jehuti throughout that region as well, throughout Africa.
You said the King's List. Mm-hmm. Can we dive that into a little bit? Of what exactly is the King's List?
It's a tablet that's got cuneiform on all four sides.
Okay.
I saw it in person. I've gone to visit it myself in the Ashmolean Museum at Oxford, England. And this has a list of kings that ruled antediluvial time period. So we're talking about before the flood.
Okay.
So before the Great Flood, we're talking about kings that ruled. Alagar ruled for, I don't know if it was 36,000 years, and all these Alulim ruled for 28,800 years, and all these time frames are just crazy time frames. And it tells you when their ruling ended, where the kingship was moved, what part of what part of Mesopotamia kingship was moved to as they ended their reigns. It moved all around the region, staying within the same Mesopotamian area. And then the Great Flood came. And when the Great Flood came, that's when the kings after the flood, the lifespans or the ruling years were going down, 1,000, 800, 600, 500, 400. I mean, just going down the tubes.
So, I mean, because that's when you hear the story of Moses. He lived to 800 years, something like that. Our lifespan, I always wondered that about us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw the new Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah, I did.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But every time I look at Wolverine, and both Deadpool, they can regenerate themselves.
Yeah.
But we can regenerate ourselves. We're slower than them, obviously.
Yeah.
But we heal.
Yeah.
We have a new. I forgot what the time period is like. Within 7 years, we have a completely new body.
Yes, correct. 7 years.
Yeah, it's right. 7 years, we have everything's being regenerated like a heart every X amount of time. Our skin gets replenished.
Yeah.
So all the old cells are dying and being regenerated.
Yeah.
But we're aging, and we're getting older, and then we're deteriorating.
Yeah.
I always wonder. I'm like, what's inside of us that's causing that to happen?
Yeah.
Because technically, we shouldn't really be dying off like that.
If one cell is good and it gets copied in the second cell, why isn't it good, just as good as the cell that got copied?
Right, and regenerated. We are regenerated.
Yeah. So if you remember, now we're going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to remember the
past 6,000 years.
Remember the fax machine?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. If I took something and faxed it to you, you don't get the same level of quality that came out on your page than my quality that I put in.
Sure, of course.
Now, if you take the fax I sent you and then fax it back to me.
Oh, God, forget it.
And then I get that and fax it back to you.
No, you Xerox it. Then you fax it back to me.
Back and forth, back and forth. What's going to happen by the 20th or 30th copy?
It's going to be deteriorated.
Won't even be able to read it.
So is that what's happening to us?
That's what's happening to us.
But isn't there an internal...
The telomeres.
Yeah, something that's stopping us from...
Right. So what's happened is we have a situation where geneticists discovered an artificial mutation in the Homo sapien. And when they say artificial, that means it's not part of natural evolution. And so they're saying something did this. Someone or somehow this happened artificially. Around 200,000 years ago is that time that I told you in the Epic of Atrahasis is when they came to... The Ijiji came to go to battle against the gods.
Unionize, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
they unionized, right. And so I like that. I really like that a lot. And so that's when they decided to genetically modify human beings. Now, how old is this artificial mutation according to geneticists? About 200,000 years old. So about 200,000 years ago, someone took out chromosome number 2, fused it together, and put a telomere cap on each end. Now, a telomere cap... it holds biological material for duplicating, replicating cells and DNA and RNA and all of that. And so, but the thing is, as your body keeps regenerating, these caps get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
It's a time clock.
Yes, and when they're done, your body is already now starting the death process.
So if those telomere caps were not there, we arguably could live. Almost indefinitely.
Almost indefinitely. The only thing that would stop us from living would be
environmental,
an accident.
Yeah, an accident. Yeah, exactly. Something that just knocks us out pretty quick. But generally speaking, we're not vampires.
Right.
And we're not superheroes that we can. We're bulletproof. Yeah. But technically, if life moved on and we just didn't hurt, kill ourselves or get hit by a car, we arguably can continue to live
thousands of years.
Easily.
And so they took mice in Harvard University. And some scientists actually were able to stop the degradation of their telomeres, and they got the mice to live 3 times their normal lifespan. So they've been experimenting with this, longevity technology, and they now know that they can stop telomeres from shrinking in human beings too. And that's why I always say we have to take back control of our planet, because if we don't take control of the matrix that they put us in, they're going to start selling us time. Okay? You'll live as long as the class that you're in. Oh, you're in this class here, the lower class. Oh, we'll give you 50 years. All right. If you make it into this political class, we'll give you all about 300 years. You make it to the elite oligarch class, you can maybe 2,000-3,000, maybe 4 centuries. I mean, 4 eons, 4,000 years.
Can you imagine what our Roth IRA would be?
Oh man.
I mean, that's going to be a heck of a Roth IRA when I retire at 6,500 years.
Yeah. So it's crazy. But these are the plans that they've got.
That's fascinating, man. That's
so we have to understand, like, we really, it's a crucial time for mankind right now to understand where we are, what our place is in the world, and the power that we have in unity, not by division, but in unity, to be able to take back control of these technologies and these advancements in life longevity and everything else, life extension, because we don't want to be put in a position where it's held over our heads like a carrot.
Well, it's already been held. The pharmaceutical companies are holding it over our heads.
Yes.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
What they charge for something that costs them.
Oh yeah.
Pennies.
I know. And they're trying to minimize the life extension, but kill us at the same time for the next customer to come. And what their plans are so outrageous. I'm going to do this whole thing on the pharmaceutical industry in a few days, because what they've done and what they're doing and how dark it is it's scary.
Well, I mean, you could just see it. I mean, it's insane. But going back to the King's List, so that is so how far back does it go? How many thousands of years did it go?
240,000 years
of this ruling kings.
Yeah.
So once again, who wrote this? Is this just a story?
Yeah.
Is this someone just and
somebody walk up and say, let me get some wet clay and a stylus and wedge this clay for about 49 hours.
But let me ask you this, though. Is there any way that they could have misunderstood the numbering? Like they could have translated 34,000 years.
Good question.
And maybe we're just not getting it.
Good question. There are numerous scholars, including Irving Finkel, who runs the British Museum, who's in charge of all the Sumerian tablets, that have come up with the fact that these numbers are right, and they're ruling in the years of Shars. One Shar is 3,600 years, according to the ancient Sumerians. There are two guys who come up with their own theory, more recently, that these are not actual Shars. The Shar is just a regular year. You say it's just a regular year. Two guys who really don't have a lot of credibility, and some people are running away with that online on social media, on YouTube and everything else, and they're trying to convince people, oh, no, Shars, these people never lived that long. These two guys right here, they're saying this is what it is, so we're going to go with that. But when I go with dozens of scholars and translators and linguists that have been working in the field, and for a very long time. Most of them even before Zachariah Sitchin was even born. I mean, we're going back to George Church and the Syriologists. Mm-hmm. We're saying now, wait a minute, we're not going to discount these masters of language and translation because these two new guys said, oh no, we think it's a regular day, a regular year. Mm-hmm. So I'm going with the biggest cache of knowledge. And on my side is saying 3,600 years, and so that's the side I'm going with. And
also, I mean, what's the agenda?
Yeah.
So is this the status quo that these are shards and this academia is on board with that? Because it actually goes against the narrative of academia. It does go against it. It goes very much against the narrative of academia.
Yeah. But see how they get away with it. They say this is just mythology.
Why, Billy, why would someone just sit down for 50 hours or 500 hours, however long it took them to do the damn thing? Yeah. And lie. Yeah, I get the story of the centaur and all of those. I get the stories. Mm-hmm. This is just accounting, or
that's all it is. It's really raw. It's really raw.
It's not a story.
It's not a story.
It's accounting.
Yes,
that's all it is.
It's like reading. If you ever gone to Genesis in the Bible and read the generations of Isis, which is really the bloodline of Adam. If you sat there and read it, it's like Jabbeth beget this and beget and beget and beget and beget. It's just like raw reading, very dry reading. Right. It's not a story.
So since you brought Adam up, this is the thing I always found out, and I'm sure you've heard this question. I'm going to ask it because a lot of people ask it. If we were Adam and Eve, we would all be Mongoloids at this point because the incest would be insane.
Yeah, we wouldn't have 8 billion people on Earth.
No, we wouldn't. So that story, for me, is much more mythology. Yeah. And just kind of a story than could actually be real. Yeah. As opposed to a lot of people who actually believe, well, they also believe 6,000 years. Right. So there's that. Yeah. That's the same group. But that doesn't make any sense. So do you have any idea of when These are very simple questions.
Yeah.
When did man start, Billy? Can you give me a date, time? Do you have photos? That would be fantastic. Video would be
When
great.
you go to the book of Genesis, you discover that there's this creation that happens before Adam and Eve.
Right, the 7 days and 6 days and 7.
Right. And in this, it alludes to the fact that there are animals and everything, and even potentially people. Now, go all the way into the Sumerian tablets, and you discover that, of course, there were people, because these beings they didn't create us from scratch, but they genetically modified or tinkered with an existing hominid. Now, this hominid, once they tinkered with it, they couldn't get it to replicate fast enough, so they started cloning them.
Really?
Yeah, and the cloning instructions and the cloning hieroglyphs are located at the Karnak Temple in Egypt, and I take people there to see them every year, and their minds or their brains are blown away. It shows you step by step how to clone a person. And these people were being cloned in the Hathor temples, which is one located at the Temple of Dendera. There's another located, another Hathor temple located. There's so many of them. Mm-hmm. There's a few of them around. There's one at near the Temple of Isis, and on that little island that we go to. And so they were creating these clones. The clones couldn't have babies because if you take a lion and a tiger, you get a ligon. A ligon is massive and looks brilliant, like a great beast.
You mean a liger?
A liger, right? Yeah. Liger, ligon, tigon, whatever.
Napoleon Dynamite's favorite animal.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it can't mate. It can't have babies.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I was always wondering, like, why aren't there more ligers out there?
Yeah.
There isn't. So they can't mate. So why can't they mate?
Because they can, but they can't have offspring.
Why?
Because it's genetically incompatible. Yeah, so they're mute. They don't have any.
But you can do that with dogs when you crossbreed dogs, and those dogs can't.
Dogs work, but horses and donkeys create mules. Mules can't reproduce, and lions and tigers. So you can have a ligon, you can have a liger, you can have both, either opposite, depending on which one's the male.
Sure.
But yeah, they can't. So they had the same problem with human beings, and so then Isis was getting a little upset about this, and she says, "I'm going to create it." And so she takes an egg out of one of the hominids. She adds her genetic material or some genetic material to it. Now, it's not sure who or how, but they added some essence to it, put it in her womb, and she carried it to term for 10 months. And then there's this famous cylinder scroll where she's holding up the baby and says, "My hands have made it," the Adamu, which means first man. And that was the first perfected version of Homo sapiens sapien was the Adamu. And then they put the Adamu in the Garden of Eden, Edin, which was ruled over by Satan, the Lord of Eden, which was also known as Yahweh in the modern day Bible. And in this Eden, when you read the book of Adam, one of the apocrypha texts that was left out of the Bible, you discover that they're in like this laboratory. They're in this outdoor laboratory where they have these mating times, and you've got to mate at certain times of day, and if you can't mate out of turn, you can get punished for having sex with the wrong woman and all the. They were trying to mate Adam with all these other cloned women, or not the perfected versions, and it wasn't working out. So they then genetically created a female version, just like they created him, and then they mated Adam with her, call it Eve, and that worked. They're like, we got it. So they made more Adams and more Eves so they can have a diverse genetic pool. They loaded them up in the garden, and then they had different mating times because they have to have genetic diversity, like you said. Otherwise, we'd be mongoloids if we all just keep mating with each other, our sisters and cousins and brothers, and it wouldn't work. There wouldn't be 8 billion people. So they created a genetic pool, and then they cross-mated at certain times, and you had these certain time slots where you had to mate like you were animals, like mating, like creating horses.
Sure.
And so, or dogs.
Yeah, studying.
Yeah, studying, exactly. And then once they got that perfected, they started realizing how to mass produce. If you remember in the Bible, Cain kills Abel, his brother, and then God kicks him out. And he said, "The people out there will kill me." Well, what people?
Right. There's only 3 of us.
Yeah. There were a lot of people out there already.
So to my understanding, there were multiple Homo erectus, like Neanderthals and all this stuff, and we were not by any stretch the leader of the pack.
No,
we were smaller, not nearly as strong as Neanderthals. No. Neanderthals were fairly bright too, from what I understand. They were not like brutes.
Yeah.
They were so there were many other Homo sapiens.
Homo sapien types, or Homo erectus, hominids.
Yeah, these kind of, there were multiple fighting, not fighting each other, but like evolving separately around the world to see who would eventually
dominance.
Become the dominant.
Who's going to become number one?
And we became number one like overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight. Yeah. And the rest of them just
disappeared.
Gone.
Yeah.
Because there should, why isn't there a Neanderthal?
Right.
Walking around
right now. We had a little bit of help.
There was something and something I heard the other day that I thought was fascinating. I'm like, we're not really built for this planet. Now, as a general statement, I'm not saying that we're alien, but as if you look in the animal kingdom, we are not designed to really be on the planet.
No.
We have no hair protecting us from the sun.
Yep.
We can't run real fast.
No.
We're not particularly strong.
Nope.
At all.
Yeah.
The only thing we got going for us is our brains.
That's it. We can't even see that well.
We're not good. We can't see. We can't smell. We can't hear.
No.
We don't have all these other things that the animals in the animal kingdom has. We are a mammal, like many other mammals in this world, but we don't seem to be really built that. Like Neanderthals apparently were extremely hairy.
Yeah.
So that protects the fur, protects them from the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I go out and just in the desert somewhere, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give us a little bit, we're done. If we were naked, it's over.
Oh, it's over. Forget about it.
Yeah, but if we even have our technology on us, we wouldn't be able to survive very long.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah. Well, one thing about the circadian rhythm of the human being, they discovered that it's more attuned to the circadian rhythm of Mars, not Earth.
Stop it.
So you're right on point with that statement. You're right on point. This is from mainstream science. They're saying something is peculiar. We don't understand why human beings' circadian rhythm is more attuned to Mars's rotation on its axis than Earth's rotation on its axis. Almost as if we came from Mars. Isn't that interesting?
All right, so since you brought Mars up, Billy, what the heck happened? What's Mars? What happened? I'm sure there's some text, some ancient thing you read somewhere along the line that said there was this planet. Yeah. It wasn't red. I'm assuming it has an atmosphere, from my understanding.
Oh, it has oxygen and everything there.
But it's very,
very, very thin.
Yeah, we can't.
We wouldn't be able to just go up there and say,
it's not. We're not there yet. We need to terraform the damn place. Yeah. But there's remnants of an atmosphere. There's remnants of being of life, even water.
They still have running water on Mars.
Yeah, they're saying that there's water underneath.
They found a lake.
They found a lake of water.
They found a 12-hectare lake just about maybe 2 years ago. They did a press release on mainstream news where they showed water running down the side of a mountain on Mars. They said that the soil on Mars is better for growing crops than the soil on Earth now.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so they are really allowing, prepping us that they're going to be moving to Mars. A breakaway civilization will be created on Mars. We're the new Anunnaki.
So what happened to it? Because it must have been thriving at one point.
A couple things happened to Mars. Mars has a crazy story. The first thing is Mars was not a planet. Mars only recently became a planet. It was a habitable moon that orbited a planet, which is now the asteroid belt. So the asteroid belt, if you put those pieces back together, that actually was a planet named Tiamat in the ancient tablets. In some ancient texts, it's also known as Krypton.
Stop it. Okay, now stop it.
Yes.
Stop it.
Yes, Krypton.
Really?
The planet that was destroyed. Where do you think they got the story for Superman?
Man, stop it, man.
They all go.
You're going to make me cry. Stop it.
These guys always go to the ancient texts to get the knowledge and turn them into movies.
Oh, I mean, if you look at Marvel, that's a lot of ancient stuff going on there.
All ancient texts, right? Yeah. Even that one new one that came out, one of the newest ones a couple of years ago. I forget the name of that movie, but they went right into the Sumerian tablets. And so anyway, so Krypton, a.k.a. Tiamat, in the Enuma Elish, in the 7 tablets of creation, you discover that in the coalescing of our solar system in that process, there was either a moon of another planet that crashed into Tiamat and broke it into pieces, or as a state, it was a war that was going on in this sector of our solar system. And it's not clear whether it's just metaphorical war or if it really is just this collision of moons and planets. But either way, it was destroyed. Now, when it blew up, huge chunks of it hit Mars. One side of Mars is charred, the other side is the smoothest surface in the solar system because it had a global flood when that happened. And that ejected a lot of atmosphere. It created a 45-degree tilt on Mars's axis because of the weight hitting one side, pulled it down towards Tiamat. That's why it's got a pole shift of the crust of the Earth evident. And it slung it into this very strange elliptical orbit around the sun, this very weird elliptical orbit where when it's in perigee or apogee, depending on which one it's in, when you want to rendezvous with the planet, you have to wait for a 2-year window to rendezvous with Mars. Otherwise, it could be an 8-month trip. But if you wait till it's like in perigee, I believe it is, it's only like 3 months if you can continue to burn like a nuclear rocket or whatever, like when they send the probes or the rovers. So it's this huge, weird elliptical orbit around the sun. And it's known as the god of war. So that was one incident that happened. Now, it seemed that as Mars started to heal again, and these Igigi were working on Mars according to the ancient Sumerians, not according to me. But when they decided to have this one war, it was thwarted because they made this agreement for workers. But then there was another guy who came in the picture, Marduk. Marduk is in the Jewish American Library. He's in the Torah. He's in the Bible. In the Egyptian text, he's known as Amun-Ra. He decides to have several wars. I think he had more than 2, but he had several wars. One of these wars spanned from Earth to the moon and even all the way to Mars. And something interesting about Mars, when you analyze the data from the REMS unit for the atmosphere and also the data from the soil, from the chemistry sets, it has an abundant amount of xenon, weapons-grade xenon. Weapons-grade xenon is a byproduct of only nuclear warfare. So in some time in Mars's past, after it began to heal itself from the one geological disaster, there was a war that involved nukes on Mars. And it's evident right now today in actual atmosphere and in the soil. And I think as Ray Brandenburg wrote a book about this as well. And so when they say it was the god of war, there's a reason for that in ancient texts, in the Greeks and so forth. They knew about this ancient war in the heavens. In the Ring Veda, they call it the Battle of the 10 Kings. And it took place in space. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, that's the Bhagavad Gita talks a lot about that kind of stuff.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and there's even talk about, from the Bhagavad Gita, they found places in India that had radiation in the soil that's never been touched by any nuclear explosion or anything like that.
Right.
The same kind of radiation you see in Nagasaki.
Nagasaki.
Yeah.
You see it also Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley near Pakistan. The buildings there turned into glass, and the dead bodies are still laying in the street right now today, holding hands. No scavenging ever happened. And when you take your Geiger counter, higher than background level radiation, evidence of a blast of 3,000 plus degree temperature.
Now, Billy, one thing I heard you talk about on another show is called please forgive me, the Adinkra codes.
The Adinkra codes.
Thank you, the Adinkra codes.
Yeah, okay.
I heard that. I was like, what the hell are the Adinkra codes? Can you please explain that?
Sure. In the Dogon tribe, which is located in Mali, Africa, they have these symbols and patterns that they stitch and paint and everything else, and these patterns are mostly a lot on their clothes. These patterns are rugs. When you take these patterns and you turn them into 3-dimensional objects, there's mathematical codes hidden in them. Professor Sylvester James Gates Jr. at the University of Maryland, he discovered codes called the Adinkra codes hidden in these symbols. And he then created this team of mathematicians to go and analyze what these codes meant and discovered that these were the codes that are called error-correcting codes, but the same ones that are running the ether of space-time itself, that our universe is running on these exact codes, and they're called Adinkra codes. The same codes that run search engines and web browsers are running this.
When you say this, sir, what do you mean?
The universe.
Okay, fair enough.
The universe is running on these codes, and it's a mind-blowing concept to understand, but the fact that it proves again that we are living in a creation, just like all the religious texts say, just like all the ancient sages say, we're living in a creation. What is the method of creation? This is a fractal holographic programmed light matrix that we're living in. And we can't fully detect it because we're fully immersed in it, but we can utilize tools to detect it now called mathematics and also called quantum physics and quantum theory.
And this is where you're talking about simulation theory.
Yeah.
That we're all in basically the matrix.
Yes, we're in the matrix, a real matrix.
The real matrix.
Yeah.
which has been talked about for thousands and thousands and thousands
Yes, it
of
has.
years. It's been in the Vedic texts, Maya and
Yeah.
the illusion, all that kind of stuff. All right, so now that we've and if anybody wants to go deeper down the rabbit hole on simulation theory, we've had multiple conversations about that.
Oh yeah.
But this we haven't spoken about, and since we both have seen Deadpool and Wolverine,
Yeah.
the multiverse
Yeah.
and parallel worlds. Can you go down the rabbit hole a bit
Yeah.
into multiverse? Because it's something that is really in the mainstream now. People are understanding, and thanks Marvel.
Marvel's done it, man. They've exposed it.
They've exposed this multiverse concept, which, by the way, Henry Cavill as Wolverine, fantastic.
Yeah.
But these multiple versions of, using that movie as an example, multiple versions, they were hunting for a Wolverine from another parallel universe that could come and save our universe with Deadpool,
Yeah.
And then we're using cartoon characters and superheroes as analogies, but they're fantastic analogies to clarify these fairly large ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
So can we dive in a little bit?
Sure. Well, the what's interesting is the forefathers of America, Benjamin Franklin and all those guys, they all believed in the plurality of worlds. They were living in a multiverse. They actually weren't even into religion. They were into aliens and multiverse, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's that from?
That's in some of the old texts and records you can even get from the Library of Congress. You discover that these guys were they had formed their own little society, their own little secret society.
They had tinfoil hats on, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Got it.
yes, they did. Yeah. Well, you had to be a different type of progressive thinker to even. These guys all did this between the ages of 20 and 30.
Right. There's some 21-year-olds who wrote on
21.
the Declaration of Independence.
These are kids.
Yeah, right.
Future thinkers.
Right.
So they weren't wrapped up in the dogma. But nonetheless, anyway, so this concept of understanding that we're living in a multiverse. In quantum physics, we understand that wave-particle duality exists in our third dimension, which is the fact that everything exists as waves of potential until a conscious observer collapses it into the illusion of solidity. That basically everything is a wave of light. And this table, for example, is nothing but light waves slowed down to a particular frequency.
Correct.
Right? But now when you take that to the more grand scale, that's the micro, take it to the macro, the universe as a whole is actually part of a multiverse. And each verse exists in superposition of the other verse. In other words, any potential outcome or anything that can happen is happening and will happen at any given time in any given universe. And there's multiple versions of us that exist throughout the multiverse that are all doing something different right now, or some may be doing the same exact thing right now. Yeah.
So let me stop you there for a second. So, and I love all this. I understand the idea of what you're saying, that there's another universe where you're in this seat and I'm in that seat.
Right.
And I run Forbidden Knowledge and you run Next Level Soul. Fine. I get all that. But these infinite versions of us, are they living within these rules? Meaning that this is the rules. So you're Billy Carson. And I'm Alex Ferrari.
Yeah.
And in this lifetime, you and I have chosen these paths to walk. And the multiple, endless, infinite versions of us are working within those parameters. Meaning there's another Alex out there in this world with this background, and another Billy out there with your world and your background, as opposed to Billy who is in ancient Rome right now, and the Billy that's in Atlantis right now. Another lifetime, not another version of you, another lifetime that we were there. I'm just trying to connect reincarnation and lifetimes with parallel realities in the multiverse. So I'd love to hear.
Now, you hit something on the head that I was just talking about to somebody the other day, because let's say that I'm in another version of me exists in another universe, and it gets run over by a car. Now, the reincarnation process takes over, and I energetically incarnate somewhere else throughout the known multiverse. So, in that particular universe, the version of myself that would have been at my exact age, my exact, whatever, doesn't really exist anymore. It's gone. And so you can have all of these kind of paradoxes that exist within this multiverse, where in some cases I could have been a stillbirth, right? I might never have been born, technically in that universe. In
that specific universe,
right?
Kind of like when Batman, and there's a universe where Batman's parents were not killed,
right?
by somebody,
Yes.
and he never became Batman.
Exactly.
So that universe, there is no Batman. Hence, the Joker still came up, the
Right.
Penguin came up,
Right.
and they're running amok because there's no Batman to
There's
stop
no
them.
Batman to stop them.
So
Correct.
I'm using again.
Yes. So basically, so you're saying it exactly what I'm saying. So you described it perfectly. So there's all these different variations of myself that exist or don't exist anymore, or never came to fruition because of different circumstances. Sure. Maybe even different laws of physics in different universes. So right now we understand these basic laws of physics and these laws of force and everything else that exists here in this third dimension. But what if another universe has a totally different law of physics? Right. Mm-hmm. So all these different things come into play. Here I'm a carbon-based being. What if I'm a silicon-based being in another universe? So all these different things come into play. But the thing that I believe is intrinsically connected with all of it is the energy. The energy, I believe, is connected. On a quantum level, energetically, we're connected to every single other version of us. And there's something that scientists discovered by looking at the mind, looking at the synapses between neurons in the brain. They began to discover that the thoughts or the synapses, sometimes they just literally blink out of existence in the third dimension and then come back again. And they're hypothesizing that they're connecting into other dimensions and potentially even other realms. What if some of these blinking outs are some level of quantum entanglement happening between our thoughts and the thoughts of our other selves in other universes? There's something right now called a multiverse meditation, which I've actually done a workshop, added it to one of my workshops, but I learned it from another guru, where you actually connect or contact, you search the multiverse with your mind like remote viewing, looking for a version of you that's achieving and doing things that you would like to be able to do, or things that it knows that you don't know as well, and to be able to go gather intelligence and information from that version of you and bring it back here.
So that's quantum jumping.
Quantum jumping, correct. Exactly what it is.
It's quantum jumping.
Yes.
Yeah, what was his name? Bob something or other. There was a guy who did that.
Yeah.
He's I forgot where I saw him from, but he normal dude, like a janitor.
Yeah.
He discovered how to do this, and then he's like, learned how to play the piano.
Yeah.
Started painting.
Mm-hmm.
Became super rich.
Yeah.
He's like, I just asked versions of myself what to do. So imagine in a world where I want to have a body like Wolverine, mm-hmm. and there's a version of me who's like, it's same body, same everything. He's like, you just gotta do this.
Yeah.
Or if I want to be, it gives you a little insight of like, hey man, I really want to, I want to be a rock star. Oh, right. Well, just go to the place where you're a rock star. And he's like, this is how I did it.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I taught that in this workshop we had called God Power 2 with Dr. B. Sirius and myself. It was like a 10-hour workshop, but it was amazing, and people got great results out of this. Great results.
Really? The quantum. How do you quantum jump, sir?
Well, you go through a particular frequency, 936 hertz. Mm-hmm. So I get them into that frequency because that frequency allows what I believe is the enhanced connection of energy, spiritual energy between yourself and other versions of yourself. And we take them through this guided meditation, which is kind of extensive, but eventually you begin to envision yourself connected to all of these universes. That you see this entire huge soup of universes all connected, and you begin to find yourself, but you're searching for a particular energy frequency, a version of yourself that's achieving something at a very high level. And then until you find it, you don't stop until you find it. When you finally come across that, you then now are gathering intelligence. You're not directly engaging or interacting in a way from the meditation, the way that we teach it, but you're there to observe and gain information. Like it's almost like a remote viewing, like Project Stargate with the CIA, mm-hmm. Major Red Dames, right? The Ministerial Goats, they made a movie about it.
Yeah.
Right. You just go to gather intel spiritually and consciously, because mind outside of space, outside of time, and you bring that knowledge back with you, and you act on it, and you can recreate what you witnessed.
So have you done it?
Oh yeah.
So what versions of you have you found?
Well, I found versions of myself that were, musicians, and I produce music now, and I've got music that has been on Billboard. We just talked about that, right? Mm-hmm. I found versions of myself that were a successful businessman in many different businesses, and I've now opened well over 100 different companies over time, and had some really successful companies, and some I've even sold for millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. I found versions of myself that I overcame depression and overcame abuse. And because I had to I started going back to try to face different types of trauma and to be able to become a better version of myself now. And how did I deal with that? How did another version of me deal with situations that were similar? And I began to realize, well, I have to face these things head on. I have to, you can't take the road of suppressing because it makes you sick. And if it makes you sick, it's going to give you illness and disease. And I found versions of myself that were dying from holding in this information.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're preaching, you're doing what you're preaching.
Absolutely. People say, Billy's a Renaissance man. Being, technically means, this guy's doing everything and at a pretty high level.
Yeah, like Da Vinci.
Yeah, exactly. And well, it's true that I am doing a lot of things at a very high level. There's the amount of things that I'm doing. People would like to do one of those things in one lifetime, if they could even come close to doing it at that level.
Right.
But I'm doing multiple things at a high level consistently all the time.
Is quantum jumping kind of the secret sauce of this?
It's the secret sauce. I'm actually doing a movie about quantum jumping. That's how powerful it is. Yeah.
Is it something, and it's something that's coming into the zeitgeist now? Because that's a pretty out there
it's
idea.
out there. It's out there, way out there. But when you drop the predisposed conditions and the programming of the brain that tell you this is too weird or too out there, and you just let that go and just go with it and just walk through the steps and become a part of it and let it flow, let the energy flow, it's mind-blowing what you can do. And then you'll come back and you'll realize, like, wow, I really mastered something that I probably would have never even learned without this meditation.
And the shifting back and forth, is that one of the reasons why we're getting the Mandela effect?
Now, that's something totally different. The Mandela effect is when, what they're saying for people who don't know, when they say, like, for example, I don't know, there's a commercial or a cartoon.
The Berenstein Bears.
Okay, the Berenstein Bears, right.
Yeah, Berenstein Bears.
So what it is that, now I think, at first I used to think, that was just foolishness. But then I started realizing something about time travel that had me rethink the whole thing. Because in time travel, you have the grandfather paradox, where how could you go back in time and kill your grandfather? Because if you did that, you would never have been born anyway to be able to travel back in time. This grandfather paradox in science and quantum physics. And so I began to analyze that.
The Terminator paradox.
Yeah, right. Yeah. True. Wow.
Yeah.
And I started analyzing. I said, wait a minute. So when you go back in time, because every paper I read, every scientific paper I read shows that you can go back in time technically and kill your grandfather. That means that you're shifting into an alternate reality.
If Avengers Endgame taught us anything, is the truth about it. Because that was a funny scene in that movie when they're like, everything you learned from Back to the Future and Terminator, like that's not the way time travel works. And they explained it literally, like if you go back in time, that becomes your future.
That becomes your future.
So you could go and kill your grandpa. Yeah. It's not going to affect you because you're now in a new timeline that you've created.
Exactly.
All right.
You're in a new reality tunnel. That timeline's going to go forward and you're going to be on that new trajectory. So when you go back in time, you shift timelines. But when you go forward in time, you stay on the same timeline. We know this for a fact because we've had time travel into the future in microns of a second by launching rockets and going to the moon or going into space. Flying on airplanes is a version of time travel. Anytime you speed away from an object that's standing still, you actually are time traveling in a very small amount. But we know that you can still be on the same exact timeline. But going back in time seems that you can create alternate timelines. And so could it be possible that somebody came back in time from another universe, ended up in our timeline and made adjustments and shifts to, to stories, commercials, content, whatever.
Ed McMahon is my favorite.
Yeah. Okay.
You remember Ed McMahon,
Yeah,
right?
Ed McMahon, yeah.
Did he ever show up to it? Did you see him go to with the Publishers Clearinghouse with a $1 million check to people's houses? Do you remember those commercials?
I don't remember. I remember the commercials, but I don't remember him showing up to them.
See, now this is two different versions. Like I not only remember him, there's proof on YouTube of him guest starring on TV shows from the 80s. Wow. And what is he doing? Showing up at somebody's front door with a big, giant $1 million check.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
So that's one of those things. Like,
yeah.
Is it, if you build it, he will come on Field of Dreams, or is it build it, they will come? What is it?
He will. If you build it, they will come.
It's he.
Yeah, it's he.
It's he. In the movie, it's he. But we all remember they.
They.
So there's even when you remember one thing, you don't, like you and I don't remember Ed McMahon the same way.
Yeah.
but we do remember, feel the dreams the same
Oh yeah,
way.
absolutely.
You know,
I just told somebody that phrase the other day. If I build it, they will come.
right? It's a thing. And
Yeah.
and how about like Luke, I am your father?
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not?
No, it's not Luke, I am your father.
Wow.
It's I am your father.
Wow.
There is no Luke. There's
Wow.
no Luke, I am your father. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I am your father. It's the
Wow.
actual. So if you go back and watch the movie, it's no, I am your father.
That's crazy.
I always thought, because anytime you ever hear someone say it, it's like,
Yeah.
Luke, I am your father. Like that's
Right.
So we're just using those as examples. If
Yeah,
anybody
yeah.
wants to watch, go down the rabbit hole. Just type in Mandela effect.
It could be
examples, and your head explodes.
It could be the effect of time travelers
Mm-hmm.
shifting into our reality and making changes and adjustments that have affected our point of view.
Or could it be large groups of us changing, agreeing on a certain movement of where we all want to go as a consciousness, and that shifts that large, because it's a large. These are large groups of people who remember
Yeah.
Ed McMahon,
Right.
or remember these lines.
That's big numbers.
And, I mean, millions and millions around the world, and then others that don't remember it. So there's like two different realities, but there's some residual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because normally when we all move in a direction, and would you agree with this, as a consciousness, humanity moves in a direction,
Yeah.
and we're choosing not to. Like I'm praying that this is true, that we're not going to blow ourselves up with nuclear
Right.
weapons. Like
Yeah.
we've all made that decision in one way, shape, or form. That this
Yeah.
is not going to happen in this reality.
Right.
But when we shift, we kind of left Luke, I am your father, out of it, and there's
Right.
large groups that move this way, but there's a small group that went this way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, absolutely makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it could be the mass shift in consciousness,
Right.
and that creates a magnetic attraction for the new reality to emerge. Right, the new paradigm occurs.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's so incredible. This universe is so incredible. There's so many possibilities and so many things.
endless.
It just makes me so excited because some people feel like, oh my God, it's just too much. But I feel like, give me more. And just to
It's
me,
endless, though.
It's endless.
It's endless, and
Yeah.
they're saying that. And this is what I always thought. I love people who's like, "Oh, there can't be any alien life out there." I'm like, there's like 70 trillion planets in our galaxy,
just in the Milky Way.
in the Milky Way, and then you look, and we've only been able to see what is it, like 3% of
Yeah.
the known universe.
Yeah, they looked at a pinprick in the sky from the Hubble, and they got there was a 70 trillion galaxies or some. It was a crazy
Galaxies.
number. Yeah,
Not planets,
No,
galaxies.
Galaxies.
And within all those
It
galaxies,
was some crazy number.
because it's just
It's called the sky. It's called the Hubble Sky Book. Just look that up, and you'll find that the number is out. It's incredible.
so and we're so far out.
Yeah,
And it's expanding. It's
Yeah.
growing infinitely,
yeah,
nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
We never there's not an edge of the universe. Like there's not an edge to the internet.
no,
Like you and I will never finish the internet.
right. We'll never finish it, and you'll never get to the edge of the universe either. You'll never get
It's
there.
not a thing.
No.
Because what's beyond the edge of the
Yeah,
universe
right.
is the question.
Yeah.
One question I have to ask you is this concept of souls, that lifetimes, that all lifetimes are happening now. There is no past life, there's no future life. All lifetimes are happening now. Can you explain that from your point of view on how that is possible? If there's one oversoul, so there's one Billy up top,
Yeah.
and right now you're in Atlantis, you're in Lemuria, you're in Egypt, you're a slave in Rome,
Right.
You're in the wherever. There's
Everywhere.
you're all these different time periods you've incarnated, and they're all living their life right now, and also in the future.
Yeah,
quote
absolutely.
unquote our future.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is-
all happy. So basically, from the third dimension, we've given ourselves the illusion of the arrow of time in order to for our minds to make sense of what's really going on here. Because our mind is really just projecting a hologram based on collected data from our sensory perception, and it's projecting that hologram, and we navigate through this matrix based on a holographic projection from our mind. And so what's happening is we're trying to sort things out and figure things out by adding that arrow of time, so I can meet you here at a particular time. It makes sense. But from a higher dimension, the past, present, and future happen all at once, simultaneously. So every iteration of me as Billy in every incarnation is existing, and even within that, every version of me within that lifetime of that incarnation is all existing simultaneously. So if I was in the fourth dimension or fifth dimension or sixth dimension looking down into the third, I would see that. Now, a good example is the movie Interstellar. Oh. Right? The ship breaks apart. He's inside of a tesseract. He's inside of a fourth dimensional hypercube and he's looking at his house, and he's looking at his daughter in the house, and he's looking at his daughter in different rooms of the house, and in different rooms she's different ages, right? Mm-hmm. And so that gives you an example. From a higher dimension, you would be able to look down at yourself, look at your house, and you see yourself at different ages in different rooms, or different people in different rooms, different incarnations in different rooms, to make it make more sense for people how it works. And so because of that, we know that everything is happening simultaneously. It's only in the third dimension that it appears to be separated by this arrow of time, which is all an illusion.
Beautifully said, sir. Beautifully, and a great movie. That movie.
Yeah.
Well, any Chris Nolan movie is going to make your head hurt.
Yeah, I know. Phenomenal.
Now, Billy, I haven't asked you these questions. Those questions I ask at the end of every interview. Mm-hmm. I haven't asked these since our first.
Oh, wow.
So I'm curious to see how you answer them now, as we're all older and wiser now.
Yeah.
More mature, if you like. Good wine. So what is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Well, my definition of living a fulfilled life would be now is to be able to impact as many lives as I possibly can. You know, my ultimate mission really is to how can I affect enough minds or spark enough minds to create a significant change or shift in consciousness on this planet to help usher mankind back towards the next golden age.
Is that what is the future of humanity? What do you think where we're going, man?
I'm optimistic. I believe that we will get to the golden age. I think we're in the silver age right now with the amount of people that are waking up and asking questions. Again, if you're a person that's only watching the news and TV or scrolling social media feeds, you won't get that perspective. But if you're a person that's really tapping into the love frequency and tapping into the hearts and minds of people, you'll begin to see that there are a lot of people in droves waking up and becoming conscious, asking questions and trying to figure out how they themselves can get to the next level. And so I'm very optimistic that we will overcome. We've already seemed to have overcome the nuclear age, even though we still have the bombs. I think those will go away eventually. But that we're going to overcome these forever wars as the next big leap.
Yeah.
And we will see some things that will still make us feel like, oh man, I thought we were over this, and it came back. But I think that we'll even get past that. There's going to be this process of mankind, imagining mankind as a baby trying to learn how to walk. Every step, the baby might fall 2 or 3 steps, right? The baby will pull himself back up again and take a few more steps and fall again. When the fall happens, we can't panic. It's part of the process. Eventually, the baby will learn how to walk and then even run. What's the definition of walking? Learning how to control your fall. That is the definition of walking. And I think mankind will learn how to control its fall and will learn how to run at some time in the future. And we're all planting seeds for trees that will grow that we'll never sit in the shade of. But I believe that it's going to happen.
Now, if you had a chance to go back in time and talk to little Billy, what advice would you give him?
I would tell little Billy, smell the roses a little bit more. Smell the roses. The grind is important. Getting out of this situation you're in is important. This economic oppressed matrix that you're in. But at the same time, enjoy a little bit more of your life too. I grinded so hard. I was like, I'm still grinding. Right?
I was about to say, you haven't slowed down, bro.
I know, but I find my ways to take my breaks now.
Yeah,
I find my very, very good spaces where I can enjoy something. If I'm going to go on a trip somewhere for work, I find a way to have a little bit of enjoyment too. If I'm going to go and research or take people on tour to Egypt, I have a vacation time built into that. Or I have pick my spots where, and I really now am able to enjoy things like sunsets and sunrises and fresh air and just seeing people smile and laugh. I mean, the things people think are nothing. And really taking it in, taking in every moment. And I do have a plan, an exit strategy for myself by 2026, which we talked about. Not that I'm going to stop working, but I'll be a lot more free to do it what I want when I want. And that's all part of my goal plan. But ultimately, I would tell little Billy, like, hey, man, along the way, stop and celebrate a little bit more for yourself. Love on yourself a little bit more and smell these roses.
And invest in Apple.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh man, I had a chance to buy Bitcoins when they were only $1.
And I could have bought Apple at $7, man. Don't get me started. How do you define God or source?
I define God and source as the divine spark that created everything in the universe, that is part of everything that exists, not only in human beings, but also inside of every atom in the known universe. which means that even this microphone is conscious. This glass in front of me is conscious. This table is conscious. Understanding that this entire universe is imbued with divine energy from the creator of all, as the Anunnaki called them. And I believe that entity exists, and that the proof that we're living in a creation is in the science and the mathematics, the fractal mathematics.
What is love?
Love is just seeing yourself and everyone else. I think that love is truly seeing yourself. And the ancient Mayans had a saying, in lakek alakin, I am another you. And understanding that we are one, that as I'm talking to you, I'm really talking to myself. If I hate on you, I'm hating on myself. If I attack you, I'm attacking myself. But if I love on you, I'm loving myself. And I think that if everyone can see it from that perspective, this world would change overnight.
And what is the ultimate purpose of life?
The ultimate purpose of life is to bring heaven to earth, to turn earth into heaven, to understand that we already are in heaven. We don't have to wait to die so we can live. This is our ability, our test to see, can we create heaven here while we're alive in this third dimension?
And where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world, brother?
Well, I'd love people to go get my Forbidden Knowledge TV app with the number 4 Forbidden Knowledge TV app on the App Store. And go in there. We got over 3,000 pieces of content there. And, of course, forbiddenknowledge.com with the number 4 has all the information on everything we have going on, all of our tours, our world tours, our Egypt tours and Peru tours and Cambodia tours, and all the things that we're doing, events, conferences, award shows. Just come hang out with us.
And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
I would just say stay true to yourself. There are going to be times where you're going to begin to doubt yourself, doubt your abilities, and begin to lose belief in yourself. Shake that off and gain back that belief in yourself and your abilities. Walk in your true power, and then you will see everything will become attracted to you. You'll attract everything into your life that you need, and abundance is your birthright.
Brother, it has been such a pleasure and honor having you in person. I'm so glad we got the chance to chillax and have these deep conversation in person, brother. I appreciate you and everything you're doing to awaken the planet, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.